time is now 8:32. Just to let you know, we got 1 minute. Yeah. That was the same thing I asked her when we broke. The time is now 8:33, and our budget meeting is back in order. Next up, fire department.
You ready for this?
We ready?
That's worth 3.5% right there. And I'm just telling you. We share a building with him. We run calls with him. I mean, I'm just saying.
Right? And we got the same problems out of the same building.
Yeah, you see that building? It's lucky to be standing. All right, Miss Latricia, you can click the button. All right, we got the mission statement as normal. We just put this presentation together to kind of show you how many calls we ran last year versus how much money you gave us and what we've done. We've done it like this in the past. Primary mission of Williston Fire Rescue is to provide a range of programs designed to protect the lives and property of the citizens of the city of Williston and the residents of rural areas included within the contracted response area from adverse effects of fires, sudden medical emergencies, or exposures to dangerous conditions created by either man or nature. Current personnel status we have now, we have 31 firefighter 2s, which are considered professional firefighters in the state of Florida. We got 2 firefighter 1s.
Go back. It's still more. It's a whole nother line.
There we go. Firefighter 1's the minimum level you have to make entry into a structure fire in the state of Florida. Now we're down to 2 firefighter 1s. We're trying to get those to go to firefighter 2 so we can all have the same pay grades. Make payroll a lot easier. We actually have 2 guys enrolled in fire school right now. On the EMS side of things, we have increased our number of paramedics. We have 23 paramedics on the department now. 13 EMTs. We have 1 emergency medical responder, and out of the 13 EMTs, we have 3 currently attending paramedic school, 1 in Gainesville and 2 in Ocala. 2023 calls for service. This is the 12-month cycle from January to December, so it doesn't fall within the budget year, but it's close enough. Totaled out with 2,143 incidents last year. Of that, 853 of those calls were in the city. 1,290 of them are in the county, in our contracted area in the county. There was a few in Inglis, a few others in Morriston, but that's what they paid us to run. In the city, our response time's down to 5 minutes and 4 seconds. That's from the time the dispatch dispatches us out to the time we go on scene. NFPA wants you to be under 7.5 minutes, I believe, so we're good on that aspect. Going into the county, it's just a lot longer response time to some of our calls. We're averaging 9 minutes and 43 seconds. Some of those calls are taking 14, 15 minutes to go to. Earlier today, we had a vehicle fall on 2 individuals at 241 in the county line. It was about a 14-minute response time to get to them. With that being said, 60% of our calls last year were in the county, 40 of them are in the city. That's pretty normal. It's usually between 40 to 60 and 50-50, just depending on what year it is. 2023, we had 37 structure fires with an approximate loss of $2.25 million in our fire district. That's not just in the city, that's in the whole fire district. For those of y'all that are not familiar, that big green area right there is your great Levy County that totals roughly 1,118 square miles. The city of Williston, which is the little bitty 2 blue boxes inside that red one, is 6.8 square miles. That red box is the response district for Williston Fire Rescue, so you can actually see how far out into the county we go as a first due district. Our response area is approximately 118 square miles. So if you have a structure fire, bad vehicle accidents, it's not uncommon to go to Otter Creek, Inglis, even Cedar Key. We had to go help Cedar Key fire a houseboat fire not too long ago. So it happens. So on this slide, you can see the increase in numbers over the years. 2017, we're at roughly 1,600. You get up to 2020, the year of COVID, we're up to 2,235 calls. Bunch of medical calls, bunch of difficulty breathing. Look at 2021, the call number stayed about the same, and that's when Levy County started manning Morriston's fire station, which cut down our call load dramatically. So as you can see in 2022, we're about 40 calls less, but we're creeping right back up to that number we're at right around the COVID time. So the more people moving in, the more traffic we have coming through town, the more traffic jams we have in the mornings, causing all the fender benders we have to run. Fire department pay formulas. This is nothing different than it was last year. It's just got it broke down for you. If there was anybody that was asking, mainly the firefighter 2s and up get paid per the hour, and you get a call out pay if you come out for a call. The firefighter 1 gets a straight stipend for working a duty day, plus they get paid per call. Nothing's changed there. SCBA grant we had in for last year, we still have not heard back whether we got it or not. Chief Stiegel wanted me to put this in this slide because there is a $30,000 match that the city would be required to pay on this grant. This, I believe it's a 90-10 or a 95-5 grant. Stephen will probably know a little better than that. And if it doesn't get granted, we would like the continuance into the next year's budget. The proposed budget increases, the utility fund, as Stephen talked about, something that has to be moved up. I think we have $5,000 currently budgeted, and it's been about $8,500 last year and projected for this year. So we're just trying to get that number bumped up for a more accurate budgeting aspect. Fire prevention education, we asked for a $500 increase, and this basically due to the rising cost of materials and the increase in number of children. I actually got the fire prevention magazine in today. Those little stickers we hand out have almost doubled in price in the past 2 years since we ordered them. The helmets have gone up like 25%, and we like handing that stuff out. The bracelets and the necklaces were a big hit at the 4th of July this year. If y'all seen the kids running around with what looked like Mardi Gras beads, the fire department was handing them out.
I might not have known that.
Choke hazard.
I said what looked like.
Yeah, right.
The maintenance of equipment, we asked for a $750 increase, and also in the equipment inspection. Those things are outsourced, and the cost of materials and labor are going up. I'm on page 31 in your budget book if you're following along. The continuance of that last page, dues and subscriptions were increasing by $500. Last year we were fortunate enough to get PS Tracks. We took some money from some other line item. This should get us back to where we can pay for all our programs we use at the fire station without having to dip in any other line items. The training, schools, and seminars wanted to increase by $1,000, and it's just basically for the increase in the cost of training. Vehicle repairs and maintenance is always a sore subject. We looking to increase it by $5,000. I believe last year we were at $15,000 budgeted, and we had about a $44,000 bill for vehicle repairs and maintenance. This year's not. I mean, this year's looking better, but not a whole lot better. We just had an $18,000 bill to get the tanker halfway fixed before it gets the complete makeover. Yeah. And then the uniforms, $1,000 increase for increased cost of the uniform materials, and everybody knows everything's getting more expensive. And that is it for that. On the payroll side of things, the staffing plan, there was no increases put in by us. All we did was update the numbers for Stephen. That way he could get a more accurate number for y'all, is all it was. Any questions? Seeing none, we can move on.
I have one.
What you got, Mr. Cox?
You share the same building with the police chief.
It's hard, but we do.
He's got a spot that's probably a quarter the size of yours.
He's actually got more living area than we do.
How come he's got a $10,000 building maintenance and you got $4,000?
My firefighters can clean the toilets.
Because they did theirs last year. If you look in their last year's budget, it was in there. They did theirs last year.
We had a big, I can't remember the plumbing company that came in, but they had to dig up part of the concrete and stick a camera down there and replace a pipe that had fallen completely off into the sinkhole.
We're next.
Yeah. It's their turn.
We're next.
Yeah, you did most of your yours last year. That's why your budget is smaller this year.
We're next. We got that little problem.
So basically, all you're just asking for is a little more to pay for all the
We just-
increases and
We
everything
just had a couple little bumps is all it was.
And then,
I believe with the utility bill, the total bump was $15,250.
and then when is it that Tanker 72 is going in for their makeover?
We just got the bids back from the bank today, so it's gonna come back in front of y'all hopefully at the next council meeting. And it should be August. I think all the parts will be. They were wanting to wait for all the parts to come in because there was like a 16-week lead time on some of the parts to fix that truck.
And the increase in here is 3%, right, for your salaries.
Whatever you feel like giving us.
I mean, I think that's what was showing here.
Sure.
Correct.
They left the 0.5 off, but we're good with that.
We appreciate it.
Ms. Hines, you got any questions? No. Ms. Merritt, do you have any questions?
I had a $2,700 bill that hadn't been processed yet for the extrication equipment we just got back. We had to send 2 pieces off to get repaired.
Remember, I think last year you discussed like the air packs had to be recertified or you would get new ones.
They are at the end of their lifespan. The current ones we have. That's why we put in for that grant.
That's the scuba.
Right.
Yes, the scuba without the U. Correct. That's it. That was that. That's what was in the slasher. The grant's still in. It's a AFG grant, I believe. So, and we haven't heard back yes or no yet.
But did you get some done?
We got 5.
Okay.
We got 5.
Thoughts. Couldn't remember. the number.
Hopefully.
We got 5.
We're hoping for fun.
How long does what
The
take?
grant.
It just varies.
Just varies.
When they award some, they put out like 10 award winners and don't send any rejection emails. So,
Oh, do you don't even know?
oh yeah, it's not fun checking your email every Monday.
Oh,
Oh, for that grant it is.
Remind me again, what was the duty pay? What is that? Like looking at on page 31, you have duty pay. Explain that.
The duty pay is when we have 2 guys that are there during the day and 2 guys at night. That's what it's the hourly rate that we pay the guys to
that's
be
what they
there.
get paid for staying.
That's what it is.
Once there's a fire, they move to a different rate.
Once we got 2 guys on there
Once you
in the
get a
day and 2
call.
at night.
I just couldn't remember what.
The 2 guys, they get paid, if they're at $15 an hour, they get paid 12 hours of $15, whether they run 1 call or 12 calls if they're a firefighter 2. The firefighter 1 gets the $65 stipend and then gets whatever their overtime rate would be per call.
And I will tell you, never realized how many calls you guys went on during the day until I start working where I work.
Oh yeah.
Because it's
Okay.
like, oh, really? So, yes, that's incredible. I don't get to see where police chief rolls guys go, but you guys right there and hear it all the time.
We run more than they do.
You probably don't want to go where we go. Yeah, right?
And I can say I don't have any questions at this time. I have asked for an extra report, which is the one I ask for every year. That's just, it shows the breakdown by duty called and that sort of thing by person.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's the only thing I've
Okay.
asked for. So, but other than that, I'm good with this.
Good. Ms. Meredith, good. That was it. Thank you, sir.
See you
Now you get to hang around with until we're done.
Because if not, we may jump back.
All right. Miss Laura have to leave? She did? Okay. Community development?
No specific. We go to the planning area, I guess.
It's gonna be in general fund or
Yeah, it is in general fund, yeah. Gotta find it. Planning. It's under page 22 and page 23. And 24 is animal control code enforcement. So 22, 23, 24. 25. Once you get to animal control.
Do you all want to skip that one or?
Not if I can help it.
Oh, never mind. BJ's gonna present.
the only thing she asked is that if you could skip over it, that's fine. She just didn't want you guys to do any cuts until she was able to be here. She understands the animal shelter did increase a lot, but we were originally doing on half capacity, and we were at full capacity at this moment. So she said that at this point, she's just more concerned about not doing any cuts for the animal shelter.
Okay, so can somebody present planning and zoning and permit and building permits? Well, she had to leave. Where'd she go?
She had an emergency.
Oh, I saw her take a phone call.
You know, I think the big thing to look on those two. If you look at the bottom line, there are decreases in their budget. And Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but planning and zoning shows a decrease of 0.9%.
Yeah, so for that, it was just a function of the permitting. Revenue's not going to be expected to be as high. So the contracts line is just a percentage of whatever revenue that. I'm sorry, not.
So are you in building permits?
Yeah.
Oh, you're in building
We're
permits.
talking about planning and zoning. So planning and zoning, the reduction really is in the comp plan line. That's going down by 21%.
Why? Can you tell me why? Because we're getting ready to do the comp plan, so I don't understand that.
That was how much you expected to utilize
Okay.
next year.
Okay.
I don't think that's everything.
So the reason why the comp plan went down is, if you remember, Laura brought before the board this year some things already, and so some of that money came out of what we would have to spend on the comp plan. So the Safe Streets grant and then the
Main Street.
zoning map that they
Main
were
Street.
talking about that Ms. Caffey did, all of that was allowing her not to have to spend what she would have needed completely if we had postponed and waited to do it.
Okay, so she did it in this year. I do see this year is over budget, so she did it this year instead of next year.
Why are we expecting building permits to be so drastically reduced with the new development plans? Because with the last budget, we had the 98 homes that come in, and this year we have less coming in.
And somebody can speak to animal control and code enforcement.
So on the animal shelter, the big line is I'm sorry.
Let's do 24 first. I would. As we know that it's probably not controversial. The other one probably might be.
Okay, so yeah, on animal control code enforcement piece, she asked to increase her training and uniforms.
Right.
Fuel again is not going up by much, but compared to the budget, it is. The actual projections, it's not too bad. Insurance is a function of the contingency I put in. Utilities kind of grew as well, and then the rest of it is just your 3%. There's not a whole lot.
What is that the utilities for? Because that shouldn't be the animal shelter.
I think it's a function of us having to get that split correctly between the two, making sure we got the right accounts.
Because animal control and code enforcement are in the city hall. So I just couldn't figure out that.
I'll have to double check that and see if they have a separate account. I'm not sure how that comes through, but
Because last year it was 1,050, and this year it's 5,500.
I think when the original animal shelter, I don't know that it was all moved.
It may not have been.
Yeah, so that's what I have to check.
Okay. All right.
That's something that's just reclasses that I'll handle.
So we can talk about animal shelter, right? And send her questions, maybe we need to.
Yes.
What I can tell you just from working with her is the vet, the cost for the vets it's the other contractual services, that piece, as well as the materials and supplies, which is the food cost. Those are the two lines that have the largest increases. And then some of it is just like, as mentioned earlier, going from part-time use in 1 year, we budgeted pretty light, realizing it wouldn't be open for the full year, to now having a full year budget. So you see here, more training, even more uniforms, just kind of across the board with a lot of this stuff. It's roughly about 102,000 increase year over year from the 2024 budget to what we have in 2025.
And of course, we talked about it going up. We knew it would go up, because we're obviously running the building full time. I will tell you that with the anticipated $45,000 vet bill, if we truly anticipate that's going to be the price, we're probably going to have to go out for RFP on that at that cost. So
I couldn't understand that either.
if we anticipate it's going to be $45,000, right? I'm going to have to go out for an RFP on
Oh,
that.
thank you. That's
Yes.
what I was going to say. We need to go out to bid
Yes.
on that.
Yeah. So that I didn't anticipate it would be that high, but if we anticipate it being that high, then obviously we got to jump through some more hoops to get it done. So.
Has anybody contacted the University of Florida about their vet students?
Yes, you mean
They're
about the
doing
vet
some
students?
things already.
You mean the students coming to the animal shelter?
Yeah.
So they're not coming to the animal shelter. We're taking the dogs there.
I know we were doing that, but has anyone talked to them about getting their vet students to come to the animal shelter?
No, I have not. As long as it still makes sense for us to take them to the University of Florida, where they have the proper facilities, the proper equipment, the students are already there. I don't see no reason why we would want to stand it up there for what limited use we're doing.
Okay. My understanding was that the vet students, in order to graduate, needed to go to rural animal shelters and do vet work at rural animal shelters for graduation.
Yeah,
Is that not accurate?
I don't know that's the case at all. I know Wayne had a vision that it would be stood up in that manner, but none of that was ever verified whether that's correct or not. So I have no idea if that's correct.
Okay, I'll talk to Laura and see if she has explored that. That was the entire idea when we built the area and had a examination room and put sinks and everything in there, was that vet students would be coming to the animal shelter as part of their graduation requirement.
So right now with the staffing levels that we have, right? So it makes more sense for us to take the animals to the University of Florida.
So it's a decision you made, period. I'm fine with that. If that's
Yeah,
what
it is currently now. Now, if it ramps up to something more, like we currently don't even house cats out there yet. A couple kittens I think we just got and gave them away. But we're not even staffing cats because we're so full of dogs.
Okay, thank you.
I know I talked with her last week and she told me we were taking them to UF Vet Clinic in order to get them spayed and neutered.
Yeah.
I think that's all. I think otherwise we're taking them to Levy Animal Clinic.
We are, which is,
And we're spending a lot of money at Levy Animal Clinic. And we're buying specialty food there as well. I know that because I was seeing checks come through and you're probably seeing those now. And that's why I think it needs to be bid out for something cheaper.
Mr. and then Mr. Barber, and then
I was just gonna say, just because it says vet bills $45,000 right there doesn't necessarily mean we have to go out for a RFP or RFQ. I mean, you're spending that over the course of a year, but the purchasing policy was $25,000 for a single line item, right?
It's $45,000.
I understand that, but that's over the course of a year. So you're talking about multiple invoices going into one line item.
I still think we need, if it's a contractual service and we're taking them there, I don't think we just need to do it without, I think somebody needs to give us a break. If we're going to use somebody as a vet, they need to give us a discount. That's the way I feel about it.
If you go out for an RFP or an RFQ, you will not get a break.
I hope that I will.
That's not how that works anymore.
But if
I
we
hope
do
that I
that, don't we have to do an RFP on each and every time? I mean,
Yeah.
you take one dog to get neutered.
Not if you
That's
hire.
one instance.
No, sir. The way I would envision that working is you would put out a RFP, RFQ, and any of the vet services that wanted to come in and work for us, we would go with the lowest bidder or the most qualified, and they would be our person.
They don't even have to come in. We could take them to their office. I just want them to give me a
However
lower
it works
rate.
out,
Yeah.
but they
So-
would be our
yeah.
contract.
So we don't get too far off track here. There is a part of the HR manual that discuss RFPs for contractual services.
Right.
So even though we're not talking about, it could be cleaning the buildings, but I think in this case, if we anticipate that this is going to be that expensive, and for some reason, Stephen's been given that number.
Yeah,
Right.
no, that's straight from
Laura, so I think in this case, we don't need to be back in the roof problem where we got a bid on a roof that was $60,000, had to stop and go back and say, okay, now we got to go back and bid the whole thing out again. After this individual's exposed himself and come up with a price. So, I don't know if it would be cheaper or not.
Mr. Barber.
I just wanted to caution that Laura may have information on this that we're all not aware of. I mean, I just know from my limited contact with that department that some of the things that she's worked out, like the chief mentioned during his presentation of networking and things of that nature, these are not prices that are just given to us as an agreement. These are one-offs. These are, if I do this, what will you guys do for us? And if you guys think that they're going to enter into a contract with us, I think that you're going to find that those prices are going to drastically change and that budget's going to increase exponentially.
I have talked to her about it. Not here, of course, because she's not here. But I talked to her about it as I was signing bills that were hefty. And I was seeing what the bills were. I was looking at an itemized bill that was coming from the vet's office. And I saw what they were for. The specialty dog food that the dog needed, the Hills Science Diet, whatever it's called, the bag of dog food was almost $50-something. Of course, I don't know how big it was.
That's pretty much standard.
Yeah. Well, I don't buy $50 dog food for my dog. I do. I can tell you that.
Miss Bishop.
Okay, so our agreement with UF is we do take our dogs there to get spayed and neutered. They also get their vaccinations. If they need to be seen for something and they can go on the schedule for that week, they are seen there.
Cool.
Most everything that goes to the Levy Animal Shelter is emergency situations. It's not just because we're taking them there. Originally, it was before we got to this point with with UF, but now everything goes to UF. It goes on a schedule, but because of our vehicle, we can only take, I think it's 2 or 4 dogs at a time, and cat-wise, we can only take 2 or 4 at a time. So we can only put so many on the schedule a week.
Yeah.
And So most everything is going to to UF to be fixed.
Yep.
Everything that's going down there is emergency, and I think that 45 is based on emergency circumstances.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: the reason why we only take so many because UF does not allow you to put a dog or a cat in the back of a truck.
But that's animal control altogether.
Yeah.
That's the rules with the guidelines for having
Well,
an
but I
animal
think
shelter.
when Mandy was taking cats up there, they said don't bring them in a truck in a kennel.
They can't be in the back of a truck.
Right.
They can be in the cab of the truck, and they have to be in an air conditioned space.
That carrier.
Hmm.
Who? Animal control.
We have animal control, but it
Yeah.
only has 2 boxes. So if the dogs don't get along, you can only take one in each side.
So they need like a $7,000 Explorer that like the city manager drives. Ooh, the Suburban would be
Yeah.
good too.
Suburban. There you go.
Okay.
Take
I see where you're going with this.
Take 6 in a Suburban.
I've volunteered mine already, so.
All right. Do we want to just wait so Laura can answer?
Yeah.
all
I mean,
these,
I would.
I was
to give
just
me
sending
the-
her
Okay.
questions. I'm not
Yes.
doing anything. I just was sending her questions.
Okay. Well, we'll let Laura do her thing at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Airport, you're up. Steve?
Yes, sir. All right. So, if you would like to turn to page 39, there are not a whole lot of changes on the airport budget. You should have one slide in front of you that's blue and white. And I passed it out to everybody sitting up there. So it talks about the primary, changes that are going on with the budget for the airport. A lot of it's dealing with salaries. And I know I've done this once in the past few years, but we have a pretty good problem that our operation is growing to the point that we need to restructure a little bit more. So what is on your slide is a organizational chart, your current organizational chart on the left side, and what our proposed organizational chart will be moving into the new year. I've been working with HR and with the city manager a little bit about how to break down the organization moving forward as the demand rises for our team and how we need to grow a little bit more. We've had a couple of guys working as a maintenance technician out at the airport on different things here and there. I know when I took over the airport, I was doing a lot of the maintenance myself. We got to a point pumping so much gas and actually getting or taking over the administrative aspects of the airport that I couldn't do all the maintenance. So, we kind of hired an ops tech and had them working on some things here and there, kind of feeling that out. Same thing with our administrative position. Right now Kelly's in the FBO supervisor job, and she is task saturated, and is not able to get out on the flight line hardly at all. So our intent with the new organizational chart would be to, basically break that FBO supervisor spot down into 3 different roles. And we're not stuck on the titles yet. That's why HR and I are still working on it. But one, a project manager, administrative manager, an operations supervisor, and a maintenance superintendent. And the reason for that would be that the project manager, administrative manager, supervisor, whatever you want to call that person, would be in charge of the leases and a lot of the paperwork, like the vast majority of the paperwork that goes on day to day at the airport. And there is a lot. Audrey would be moving into our operations supervisor role, and operations is fuel and airplanes and moving airplanes. She excels in that, as she's currently, kind of acting as that role on our weekend anyway. Moving airplanes in and out at the request of the customers, fueling them, having them ready to go when everybody shows up. There's a lot of timing and planning that goes into all of that, especially in Florida where it gets hot and rainy. So you have to kind of, be pretty measured with that. And John, I know it says gain. For some reason, PowerPoint auto-corrected. It's actually pronounced John, Gian. And John is a very, very smart guy. He used to work on forward-looking infrared systems for FLIR. And he's come to the airport and just kind of, done some odd jobs here and there and learned some of the maintenance. I've sent him to the Titan Quality Control course for fuel. He's brought a lot back from that course and improved our quality control system. He's actually going to an airfield lighting course in mid-July to learn about airfield lighting and electrical circuits. So, we're growing and we're branching out as far as having more selective personnel. So as we continue to grow as an airport, as a team, and an operation, we're going to need more people. And what this restructuring allows for is to have the lieutenants in place to manage those people as the need arises in the future, if that makes sense. And we'll bring back a whole presentation to you guys based on what that's going to look like as far as job descriptions and all of that, because that has to be approved by the council. But that's kind of the long way of saying, we have some salary changes associated with some of those title changes. And that's what's at the bottom of the sheet that you have in front of you. Other than that, our budget really doesn't change a whole lot. Part of the reason that the salaries are increasing the way that they are is, Steve and I were actually just talking about this. Last year, we handicapped ourselves a little bit on our fuel sales. And we did a 1% increase, and that made our revenues a little bit lower than it should have been, so we stayed conservative on salary adjustments. This year, the airport revenues are growing and growing and growing and doing better, so we bumped it up to 2.5, and that gave us a little bit more wiggle room to bring our team up. And if you'll notice, my lowest line technician right now is making $14.50 an hour right now, pumping gas in airplanes. So we would like to bring that person, that minimum up to 16 for us, and then fix compression from there.
Sounds good.
All right. Something that the auditors talked about today.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure it's being done, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Send it.
When gas comes in at a certain dollar amount,
Mhm.
when it comes in,
Yeah.
how much are you going up in price to the consumer? That's why.
What was that, Ms. Jones?
I said it varies.
It does, but I do have a metric for it.
Yeah.
So
Depends on the customer.
we are contracted for jet fuel to put 75 cents per gallon on a CAA registered aircraft. That's Corporate Aircraft Association. So for every gallon of jet fuel, we make 75 cents.
Nice.
Yes, sir.
There are convenience stores that would love to make that kind of
Yes, sir.
gas.
So avgas, we keep it low because a lot of our people on the airfield that are flying smaller airplanes are fixed income. So that number sits around 53 cents a gallon into plane. I'm not trying to, I've had a lot of people come up to me, even with the adjustments on T-hangers saying that they're on fixed income, and if we go up too much more, they may have to sell their airplane. I firmly believe that, we're a public use airport, people need to be able to use it. And if we push them out because we continue to raise T-hanger rates like other municipalities around, we're not really doing any public service. We're just putting more money into our pockets. So I don't feel like going up too much on the avgas side. And the jet side, we've actually increased considerably since I took over. When I took over in 2019, the FBO supervisor, airport supervisor, Wayne Middleton, told me that they were making 35 cents a gallon over cost. I let that ride for about 6 months before I looked into it and said, this is miserable. We were literally making pennies on the gallon.
I got one for you. It's an old story here now. When I first became a council member and we leased out the airport, the FBO who ran it for the city paid us 4 cents per gallon. That's why we took it over ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we were
making 35 cents a gallon, and that was not including tax. So we were losing 20 cents a gallon in tax.
Yeah.
We were making nothing. Steven can tell you. And we've revised that number several times over through negotiations with the CAA, through math, and figured out that we can make money and still keep customers happy and still be the lowest around by, checking rates with other FBOs around and saying, all right, this is our target number. Let's shoot for it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. City Manager. They were complimentary of the airport, the way they went back several years and said it just wasn't making money.
Yeah, they were. As a matter of fact, the airport currently has in its reserve, which is not really classified that way, is $427,859.
half an ounce.
I remember when the airport was running in the red half the time.
Yep. And they mentioned that too during the audit, that now that it's actually producing money and being profitable, Benton's done a very good job. And I will say, just to add one thing to the organizational chart, because the margins are so slim, even for them, what was the FBO, new FBO? How many millions?
3.8.
3.8. So part of that moving and having a project manager is going to be able to help facilitate that, getting the grants in and out faster, payments in and out faster. I can't float, $1 million.
And we had, at one point during this grant, we were trying to wait for one more pay app to come in. And if we would have paid the three pay applications that were out, it would have been close to $1.5 million. And we were, with Kelly and I sitting down and crunching numbers and going back and forth with FAA, FDOT, and Passero, we were able to get all of that money back before the last check cleared. Wow. So it was a lot of work, but we were able to iron out some processes and really do some good things for our grant process.
And I know Audrey, she'll do a great job with operations.
Oh, absolutely.
She lives for it.
And that account actually shows up in the audit as airport operations. That above it, beyond everything else you got. So.
And everybody who rents hangars and everything's all up. We don't have any delinquencies or anything.
We have 1 or 2 land leases that we need to address. But Kelly and I are talking about that and how to move forward. And we're, for the most part, all of our hangars are up. Everybody on the airfield side is up and they're paid. With the exception of 1 or 2 that are way out. Fisher Aviation and Steve Dibble, who's no longer with us. We have to bring that before council and get the council, or request that the council write off those debts. But everybody on the air side is up to date. We just have a couple of land leases that Kelly and I are going to have to address.
Okay. Ms. Hines, you have any questions? Ms. Martin? Okay. You're off the chopping block. Next, Public Works.
Good evening. If you guys want to start in the streets and parks budget, I believe that's back in the general fund budget. Right after
Page number?
I'm looking for it.
See who can find it first.
You got parks.
33.
33.
So the parks budget, we wanted to start this year by attempting to make a massive change to it based on feedback from the council and from the public. In order to do those changes, we would need additional personnel, which we were informed was not going to be a possibility this year. So what you see there before you and your parks budget is broken into 3 budgets and is going to have to be condensed back into one singular budget. That I'm trying to.
Okay, what do you mean 3 budgets?
Well, if you'll notice, it's
You
what
mean
you have is you have facilities, you have roads,
parks, roads,
and you have
facilities.
parks.
Okay.
And whereas before in previous years it was all just the streets and parks budget.
Okay.
The reason for that is because we were requesting 3 additional positions to break it up to where there were 3 people in each department. One of the biggest problems that we were having complaints for, and that's going to continue to be a persistent issue with the public, is the condition of our streets. And unfortunately, we do not have the personnel to work full-time on the streets. It's just not possible with the staffing level that we have. So that was why we said we needed to break them up. The other cost savings was we wanted to do facilities, wanted to get some people to specialize and get more involved in not having to go on outside contracting services for the library, for the tourism board, for the airport, for fire and police, for whoever needed more building maintenance, painting, plumbing, electrical, things of that nature. But again, we can't get extra personnel, but that was the thought behind it. And then the third one, of course, was our parks. Obviously, our parks, our byways, our easements, all of the public areas that we have that we are responsible to mow and maintain. So because we didn't end up asking for those positions, the budget wasn't readjusted in time. But you're going to be seeing on the second iteration, those are going to be back into a total streets and parks budget. And some of that cost will go down because we're not going to have the same need for some of the materials because we won't be able to focus on the roads for the budget that we wanted to put in. So you can look at those budgets. We're going to continue to come back year to year and really make those recommendations to go in that direction and split that department up into 3 categories. But we're going to need to build up the reserves, as you've heard, build up our resources and things before we really can expand any kind of staffing structure in order to accomplish that. So I can't really go over the specific numbers right now for streets and parks because we're going to condense quite a bit.
Don't all of these employees exist now?
Yes, the current employees are there. We were going to ask for additional employees. It's not feasible. You can't have a roads department safely with 2 people.
I mean, I know they do because I wrote their names next to their positions.
Yes. All of the people there are currently our current streets and park staff. Again, we're going to abandon that because what you were going to see was you're going to see new position vacant in each one of those sections. And again, that's not the direction we were asked to go, so that's why we abandoned that.
So what you're saying is
So
these are going to have to go back all into one?
All into one, streets and parks. It's going to be similar to last year's.
Just leave them like they are.
Because then you've told the community that we have a roads department and I don't have the staff to actually do roads. You're asking us to do facilities, but I don't have the personnel to do facilities the way they need to be done.
So are these 3 guys not doing roads?
Those 3 guys are doing everything. We do not have enough staff. We have like 166 acres when you take the easements and the parks and all of the city property. When you get into the maintenance of the buildings that we already do and what we already get involved with, we just don't have the staff. So when we broke these up, they were meant to have further positions in there. And since we weren't asking for new positions in this budget, that's why these need to be recondensed back into one budget, a streets and parks department.
I don't know why.
So you're saying that
I mean, it hasn't been
have 2 people for roads and they can't do the roads.
No, ma'am, it's not safe to have only 2 people. So if you're doing cold patch, or you're doing hot patch, or any kind of road work or asphalt work or concrete work, you're going to have an operator on a piece of equipment, you're going to have a spotter, and then you're going to have a couple of guys working in a hole or maintaining or manipulating pavement, or hot patch or cold patch or anything of that nature. So no.
So how many people do you need for that particular?
We were asking for 4 total for that.
So 2 more extra people.
Correct. That's where 2 of them were.
So for facilities.
Facilities, we wanted a third.
And then you wanted somebody else for parks? Or
No,
parks is good?
Parks was fine with the 2 that were there because included in the parks are the inmate supervisors and the inmates that we get access to Monday through Friday.
And Mr. Williams is split between two departments.
Mr. Williams runs all three, which is currently just one. It's streets and parks. And again,
see.
he's
I
not.
didn't see
We're not
that.
asking to make him a supervisor now because he's just a crew leader currently, and that's what he'll remain because he won't be supervising three departments. So again, in your second iteration, you'll see, and there'll be savings because again, we're not going to be asking for the same amount of materials and equipment and repairs and things that we would have had these three budgets been broken out. So, but we are going to continue to go in this direction, and we hope that council will look at this. Like I said, the thing that we get the most calls on, the most work orders on, the most complaints on, the most things on, you know, the different social media sites is the conditions of the roads. And we would really like to put resources and time and money into those, but you need people who are qualified to do that type of work, and we just do not have enough people to do that full time.
We need to. I know this is a really big statement, but we need to quit repairing roads and we need to pave roads.
Well, we can't do that until we fix the infrastructure underneath them.
I realize that, but I'm tired of hearing it.
Well, I mean, if you guys want to find $46 million, we'll
so
fix
is
underneath
the city
them.
of Williston.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what I keep hearing from everybody. You're exactly right. I keep getting told we can't do it until we fix what's underneath. Well, you know, they've been waiting for a year and a half, 2 years. On some roads, they've been waiting for 2.5 years.
And they've probably been waiting more. Again, hate to be beat a dead horse. We're suffering from what's not been done in the past.
Exactly.
And so, citizen.
Yeah, they would put $20,000 in a road budget, and then they wouldn't do any roads. And I know they did that for years. And I'm not talking about y'all.
No,
I'm
ma'am,
talking
not
about
us.
the people before you. They put a $20,000 budget in there. They did nothing with it. And next year, $20,000, they didn't do anything. And you can only repair it so much. I know there are streets in my neighborhood, and I know there's streets all over this town. Mine's probably better than anybody else. A second is great, so other than the stormwater project that's completely torn it up. But the side street, the streets, not the avenues, are a mess. And I know that they're that way everywhere. In front of the police station, there's like 3 or 4 blocks area. Go down farther into southeast and northeast, they're the same way. But some of them are bad enough that if we don't repave them, we're going to lose the whole street.
So, council, we would love to do all kinds of work, but those require resources.
I realize that.
We don't have the resources. You guys have heard the budget constraints.
I'm talking about hiring people. Hiring a contractor to pave a road.
Then that's going to be even more than if you have the equipment and you have the budget yourself. I mean,
we don't have the equipment to pave a road. We have the equipment to repair a road.
Correct.
But not to pave a road.
Well, I mean, typically, like I said, a contract for infrastructure underneath of a road is going to come with the replacement of the road. If you redo your sewer, you redo your water, you redo your gas where it needs to be done, that problem solves itself. But if you look at our capital outlay budget when we get to utilities, there's not a lot there. And yet studies that this council and previous councils have authorized and asked to be paid for and done by independent engineers have come back and shown you guys a map for the next 20 years of every capital need that you have for roads, for water, for sewer, for gas, for electric. And no money's being put aside to do those things because the money's not there. So, I mean, y'all are asking us to fix something that we don't have the resources to fix. I mean, I understand the consternation that the residents of the town have, but you can't get blood from a stone.
I have 2 questions.
Not a different stone.
One question is it at all possible, and I understand this is just like patching roads, not repaving roads, that you have a list and you contract out for somebody to come for 2 months or something like that to be the extra person, that it's not a full-time person, or do you need a full-time year-round person to do the patchwork?
So I'll give you guys an example of what you're talking about, repairs, okay? If y'all remember Bubba-Q's in front, we had a water leak on a DOT road. Even the city streets, when they're repaired by a contractor, they're done to a minimum standard of DOT standards. That patch in front of Bubba-Q's was $28,000. So if you all want to go and tell us to put out bids for contractors and you guys want us to pick the most troublesome spots, we are more than happy to do that. I don't know where you're going to find the money in the budget. I mean, I don't know if you're going to authorize the city manager to do it
guess-
from a line of credit or.
My question was an additional employee, not necessarily contracting out to a whole nother company, but getting, hiring and I don't even know if those type of floating employees exist where they come in and
So
they.
yes, ma'am. So if you're talking about like day labor or something like that, you're not going to find someone that we can insure and put on our heavy equipment and day labor somebody to do. I mean, this is technical work. This is not work that you pull somebody off the street and have them do. It's work you have to know whether you're putting down cold patch or hot patch or whether you're doing asphalt or whether you're doing concrete. There is a level of skill involved in all of these things. Otherwise, it's not going to the resources that you expend to make the repair will not be lasting.
My second question was, I know that there's been some talk of impact fees, and that with impact fees, some roads.
With the ones we currently have, you have capacity fees for wastewater and water, and then you're going to have eventually, hopefully, help me with the terminology.
So capacity fees are passed by council. Those are assessed at $6,500 for residents, and then there's a formula for commercial. Those are already in effect, but keep in mind if it's a sewer capacity fee or a water capacity fee, those have to be spent statutorily directly in those departments.
Yeah.
PD, fire, parks, and streets are working on and have been authorized by the council to work with a firm and Wright Pierce to come up with a proposal for impact fees. We are in the middle of that. A contingent of that would come from new development and would be going to roads and parks, but it would be a very small contingent, and you can't really budget on that. I think if you talk to Steven and the experience he has with municipal and county budgeting, you can't really budget on that development because there's no guarantee that it's going to be there.
And
I mean,
I
it
think
could
it
be
was-
there one
yeah.
year and then it could
And-
be
And I think
not
it was
the next.
$700 a home for just
Yes,
streets and parks.
it's not a significant amount of money.
And doesn't that money have to be used for new development versus?
Correct. And it also,
Use it
again,
to-
statutorily has to be used for new development, not repairs on old.
Mobility fees are the same. way.
Correct.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, the Country Lane Estates, which is off 7th. So the proposed impact fees could not go to helping repair 7th Street, despite the fact that all of their concrete trucks and everything else drive up and down it.
What I would say is that they are required to do a road study in that particular case.
Mhm.
And the road study that they submitted that was accepted by our engineers and by the council when the developers agreement and all that was brought forward stated that the level of the road did not deteriorate it below a C. Now, whether any of us would agree with that is one thing, but that's what the study said. And so there's a certain level at which,
But that was a traffic study, not a tear the road up study because of your dump trucks all day.
well, I agree with that, Ms. Jones. I'm just telling you what we have to go by on the developers agreement. It references that study, I believe. And it references a level C, and it says that if it didn't drop it below a level C, that there were certain things they did have to do and they didn't have to do. Now, if you're asking about impact fees, could they be applied to that? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, they could.
Absolutely. But it has to stay within the area that the development was done. You can't send that money to the southwest.
Right.
That's not allowable.
And there's a new thing called mobility fees. I don't know if you talked. I actually served on a legislative committee for Florida League of Cities that's about mobility fees, and it's something that's paid by the developer that's used for the roads.
So we learned about that this year at the American Public Works Association conference in Daytona.
Yep.
And that is something that we're talking with Wright Pierce on as well.
Yep.
So yes, ma'am, that's another avenue that we have begun to research.
It comes along with the permit. They pay it when they pay their permit fee.
So any other questions on streets and parks? Like I said, you're going to get a totally different looking one on the second
I
go
don't understand
round.
why. I still don't understand why you can't leave it in the 3 so it accurately reflects
Well,
expenditures that are going to each area.
Well, we wouldn't really spend that much money because we don't have the staff to do it. If you want us to leave it that way, that's fine. I just want to make sure, for the record, for all of our YouTube audience and posterity for the future that anybody could listen to, that it's not something that we're properly staffed to do.
So the new employees are in this budget.
No, ma'am, they're not.
So I don't understand why you can't leave them.
Like-
That's my.
I guess because I would
That's
say
what
that if
I'm not
someone pulls
understanding.
out the budget and they say, okay, you guys have a roads department, why can't you fix my road? My answer to that would be because I don't have the staff to do it. because I don't really have a roads department. Just because I have a budget doesn't mean I have a department to do it.
Okay, so you're putting it back. You're still gonna call it roads and streets.
It's going to be the same as it has been, streets and parks.
Okay, that's just a technical.
I mean, y'all are the council.
Okay.
You guys can determine if you want to leave it. That's fine. As again, I'm just stating. This was designed when we were asking for additional positions. I want to make that clear. If you guys want to keep it this way, if you like it, this is the direction we want to go. We do believe these services need to be brought out. We need to focus on facilities and be preventative and maintenance. We do need to take care of our roads. We do need to have people sectioned off specifically to do our parks. The salaries should reflect different skills. That's the direction we're trying to go. We're trying to set up succession planning properly, where you have, as Benton and others have mentioned, you have people who are leading staff members in their division. And so that is the direction we want to go. But again, this was brought forward when we were going to ask for new positions. And
I mean, I hate to be argumentative, but when I look at the roads on page 34, it's got $20,000 for roads.
yes, ma'am.
Is that not something we still plan to do?
I would not be able to have the staff in a year to put down $20,000 worth of cold patch and hot patch.
Well, the street repair, that's the street repairs. One street repair and one's, why not? Because we need it. I mean, I just don't know.
Ms. Jones, I mean, we just did 4th of July, and, when we do something like that, that takes a week and a half, 2 weeks of preparation where all of the staff for that entire department is focusing on a float, is focusing on getting a parade route ready, is focusing on doing all the things that they're supposed to do to every element of our part of that event, for example. In that time, we're not mowing the parks, we're not mowing the easements, we're not working on the roads, we're not doing more of the facilities of the buildings. I don't have enough people. I mean, our folks are not standing around, I promise you that. They are working hard, and there's only so much that they can do, and that's even with the additional inmates that we have that we utilize very carefully. So that's what I have to say on that.
If you put them all back together, is the budget going to change?
Yes, ma'am, it will go down.
It would decrease.
How much?
I don't know that figure yet. I need to sit down with Steven and go over and we split it apart, and then we added some things for some needed items, and I need to backtrack that.
Because you have overtime that may not be that amount of money.
Well, we always use the overtime. We bust our overtime budget all the time. And we put in the extra hours within the normal salary range simply because of the special events and all the other things that we do, so that you guys can really get a true number of what it's costing you as opposed to, at the end of the year making a major budget adjustment
But
or amendment.
repairs and supplies, maybe.
Yes, some of them are
less.
duplicated. Yes, ma'am.
Which you wouldn't need in the other one, because once you
So
eliminate
it
this-
won't eliminate them completely, but it will condense them.
So I think what I'm seeing is that, yes, they were told by me they were not going to do it. I kind of thought maybe this would be corrected.
The people aren't in here. Other people aren't here.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that I'm the one that cut the position, right?
Right.
So I didn't really think, I thought that this would be corrected by the time we got here, just like the staffing plan was supposed to be corrected.
It is. Staffing plan's correct.
But you have them in parks and you have them in roads and
The staffing plan is correct, other than obviously the department title, but the
Right.
position names and all of that are still
but
correct.
they're broken down in
Correct.
the parks and roads and right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I see what would change is this is almost like looking at the animal shelter budget. There's no history in there.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
you really, these are guesstimates. And probably, I don't disagree with the fact that, I don't know how much money you would be saving, but I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of like, okay, we got $20,000 in street repairs. If I'm getting towards the end of the year and I haven't spent that money, maybe I can hire a crew to come in and do hot patch.
And if you don't know somebody who can do it, I do.
Yeah, we got that guy.
Yes, that
Yeah.
guy that I introduced you to. I think he lives right here in Williston.
Now, I can tell you like
Got his own
vehicle,
equipment too.
yeah, vehicle fuel, $1,500. That's probably not going to work out. Because there's a truck here, right? Yeah. So we could come in over budget in some lines next year, under budget. But it just depends on, do you really want to see the breakdown? And
I'm
my
okay
question,
with seeing the breakdown, and especially if you're going to move that way, if you want to move that way.
We are.
And I'm just saying, leave it.
Again, I mean, this is the vision for where we would like to go, and I think it's the vision that the residents of the town would have as well. But I just want to make sure that there's an understanding that, you know, when we get questions at council meeting, well, you have a roads department, why can't you manage to fix roads? We've had a very frank and clear understanding of why we can't fix roads. I mean, I don't want to set expectations to the point where the staff is incapable or
My
impossible
problem is
to
I
meet
want to
them.
fix roads.
Well, Miss
Right.
Jones, I'd
But-
love to have
I wanna get away.
$46 million to
I
do
wanna
it.
do it. Even if
Right.
we have to hire somebody else to do it.
But we've got to have the money.
Well, altogether in here, there's $40,000. There's 20
Not
in one
$46
area.
million.
There's 20 in one and 20 in the other. There's 20 right there, and over here there's another 20.
So that gets you almost gets you like 1.5 barbecue fixes.
I'm not working on DOT streets. I'm working on Williston.
Our streets are done to
Neighborhoods.
DOT streets.
They're neighborhood streets.
They're
though.
done to
They're
DOT
not
standards.
culverts with storm drains.
Miss Jones, if a developer comes in and they fix a street or develop a street, they have to do it to a DOT standard. We have to do the same.
Donald, I want to do it to DOT standards, but I'm not fixing a culvert and a storm drain, which is essentially what you did at Barbecue.
No, ma'am. That was a water leak in 27. We have a stormwater budget, and we have money when we get there for the culverts and things like that. That's separate.
The $28,000 wasn't the culvert and the storm drain that was in front of Barbecue?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, I thought it was.
No, ma'am. That was just literally the blacktop. And we did all the prep work.
Right.
And
then-
we did the
and
curbing.
Whitehurst came and fixed it.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's great. I mean, I'm glad that there is a vision, and but if you put it all back together and it
I think you say
increases
this way.
our budget, I think that would be a good idea. But knowing that this is the future that you're looking at.
I mean, if you want to call
So
it something
I'm
besides
good.
roads,
I'm good
call
with
it
you putting
something
it
else.
back together.
Here's just to the other coin, the other side of this. By leaving it split, you do start to build some history. And I understand what Donald's saying, and I agree to that as well. But a big part of this is we don't have any history. We'll start to build some history in the operating side at the minimum, even if we put all the personnel back up there, at least from the operating side. And maybe that's kind of the middle ground, because if there's no people there, maybe that kind of says one thing versus the other. But
I mean, there's 3 people in this one. One of them is a 30 for 30. And the other one has the 2 other people and the same guy. And is he showing as a supervisor already in the budget?
He should not be, because if
In the staffing plan he got changed?
in the staffing plan he got changed, he should just be a crew leader.
I mean, if he's over all 3, maybe.
If he's a supervisor, he has to go salary, and I can tell you right now that employee, after speaking to him, and HR can answer that too, he is not interested in going a salary at the rate that he is proposed at. So he
Which
has
I-
interest, but he's not at that rate. He doesn't.
Which I'm okay with.
I'm sorry to say, shouldn't have been put in here as the leader now.
Well, crew leader, yes,
A
because
crew leader, but not a supervisor.
Right.
So
If he
I
didn't wanna
sat
be
down and
doing
did the budget and the line items. I did not create the staff. This is not my staffing plan. So I know you have a lot of questions as to why this was done and that was done. I did not have anything to do with the staffing plan. I only had stuff to do with the line item stuff.
I will tell you the advantage for me is just to say that I can look at the road department budget, regardless if there's people there or not. You can take them all out, like Steven said, move them over to the other side, and I can look at some funding in there. And my question is going to be at the end of next year is, you had $20,000 to hire somebody to go fix hot patch. Why did we not do that? Matter of fact, it's probably not going to be a question, because I'm going to say, hire somebody to go do that. Because at least if we hot patch, we can't fix a whole corner. We can't fix a mile and a half of road. I mean, I get that part. But I can certainly pay somebody to come in with some hot patch and help us out.
Or you might get somebody to reseal a road at a
Yeah.
reasonable rate.
I don't.
Put an overlay in and reseal, not do a whole new road.
Do we keep track of where we have patches we need?
Yes, sir. If you go to our back area, there's a board. It has every section of town broken down, and it has a list of all the stuff that needs to be from small spots to large spots.
And do we still have a pothole day?
Yes, ma'am, we do when we don't have special events.
Okay, so we can add to the pothole day list.
But don't you know how much you're spending on park? Don't you know how much you're spending on roads throughout the year anyway? Even though it's not
Parks pretty
broken
much we do.
down that way, you still, in a sense, have a history. It's just not there. Right?
Because the point of this original approach was to develop a separate department. With each department comes some slight costs that are different that it wouldn't have if you combine them all together. So let's say in other words, let's say they got in their own vehicle. So now you got another vehicle, then you got to add more fuel, potential repairs and maintenance. So that was kind of as you split them all out, and they're doing independent things versus one guy doing, a little here, a little there, a little here. Now he's separate 100% on one task. It does add some cost that's a little bit different than if they were consolidated.
Right. So you wouldn't be able to break out the fuel, but you can break out street repair. You can break out what materials and supplies.
Correct. Yes, and that's how I started.
So,
with it.
and so in a sense, you do have a breakdown of how much it costs for that particular item throughout the year.
Certain
it's
pieces
just
of it.
not certain
Yeah,
pieces.
certain pieces, and that's how I did. I started by moving the lines that were very clear.
Mm-hmm.
It says street repairs. That's
Mhm.
got to go under roads, and then I filled it in a little bit from there, based on pulling from the parks.
Is that kind of where you got the budget from, or is that was given to you by Mr. Barber?
There was nothing. Basically, Mr. Barber said, I want to do 3 departments. These are the people that are going to be in each. And I went and said, okay, your total parks department is this. I'm going to pull a little from each place and move them down and give you a good starting point.
So this would be a good point to start then to go into next year.
Yeah. But again, it's certainly, we certainly have the opportunity to go back through this and fine tune it based on the current plan, which is not to have the full,
so we could come in over budget.
Come in budget or under. Yeah.
I don't think it'll be under.
Mr. Barber, what would you like to see done aside from the new employees? We obviously are not going to do that.
I think it's a
How
great
would you
idea.
like to see
I agree with the city manager completely. I think that it's something you should definitely do because it gives you, as they've stated, a picture, a forecast of what we need to build. And sometimes, like the animal shelter, that's the only way we can do it. We have to do it a little bit at a time incrementally, and maybe next year we don't get 4 positions, we get 1 or 2. But yes, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I mean, the thing that we get addressed the most by and far in large, is the roads. And it's not for lack of desire. It's not because we don't want to do it. I mean, I love to please people as much as I can. It's great when somebody comes in here and gives your staff a compliment. And by the way, we do road repair. I don't have the impression that we don't fix roads. We had a gentleman wrote a letter on the southeast side of town and named an employee and said, thank you so much. It had been 13 years since he realized how wide his street was. Because some of the small side streets, we took it back and reclaimed the street. There'd been literally a 2-lane street that had been 1 lane for years. And when we went back and cleaned it, we discovered there were 2 lanes there because, so we're doing everything we can in regards to that. I just, again, caution everybody that we're going to come to a meeting. You're going to have people in public comment come up to a podium and say, why aren't you fixing my street? Why aren't you doing this? And I just want to make sure the council doesn't turn around and look at us and our staff and go, we gave you a roads department, so why aren't you out there doing your job? That's not a fair assessment because they don't have the personnel or the resources to accomplish what you're asking them to do at that point. But I think it's a wonderful idea to begin to build a picture and move forward into the future. We're not creating something out of thin air. This is what other towns that are growing are doing. We're just trying to follow the example of the people who are making strides and making their streets better, more transversable and safer, especially for pedestrian traffic. And so, yes, I agree and concur that it would be great to keep them the way they are, as long as we have that understanding of staff.
as long as you have understanding of what the road's repaired.
So is there any way for us to, since we don't really have an idea, are these realistic numbers, you believe?
We just give it back to Stephen
We-
and let him fix it.
We sat down and we had conversations carefully on what are we doing now? What would we like to do? If we had the extra people, what would we have done? We tried to figure out what the cost of the materials would have been, possibly purchasing another vehicle through surplus, because, you got to get like a dump truck to put the hot patch and the cold patch in. It kind of ruins it, unless you spend 3 hours every time cleaning it out. So yes, we sat down and tried to come up with some metrics, and then Stephen came up and extrapolated, as he mentioned, out some of the things. Well, that wouldn't need to be used there if it was created here, and try not to duplicate. But I mean, it's a guesstimate at the end of the day. We've never done this to this degree before.
Right. So if you have half the staff, then you probably only need half.
Well, it's not simple as that, because when you say half the staff and you talk about that not just in that department but others, that means that they're going and doing other things outside of their department, right?
Right, but we're talking about roads. So
I understand that, but
if-
those
if-
roads
if
people
they
without
don't
those
fix it,
additional
we don't have to do
personnel
that.
are
Yeah,
going
we
to
don't.
have to go and do the Christmas lights. They're going to have to work on the toilet at the park. They're going to have to go mow
which
grass.
means that they won't be doing the roads.
Correct.
Which means they won't be spending that money in that area, correct?
Correct.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I can tell you, seeing them come in and buying things, spend a lot of time fixing restrooms at the parks. You got to come in and
that's
take
fine.
and do that,
I'm just
and all that
asking
stuff.
questions to
Takes
try
away.
to see if there's anything we can delete from this line item, but still be
Yes,
able
Stephen,
to
I'll
take
figure it
care
out.
of what you need.
Well, and Ms. Hines, to give you a little comfort, I believe we're returning to the utility funding like $400 and some $1,000 in excess funds. So, I mean, I know that there's an issue with reserves and whatnot, but I mean, we're returning quite a bit to reserves this year in the budget. I mean, it's not that the money's not there; it's that the money needs to go to beginning to build an emergency fund. And we also did the rate stabilization fund in electric, which is helping. I know that's part of that. And this year you'll see with FGU presenting to you a rate stabilization program for gas as well, to stabilize that program in case there was a big rate hike too. So for the fuel. So you're going to see that, and that's going to help reserves a little bit as well.
By the way, that's critical, because if you see a huge spike in gas, there's no mechanism right now to avoid passing 100% of the rate through to your rate use. So it's great that staff's doing that. We haven't seen it so far. Everything is at a very nice level, but should that happen, that will be.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. My question, and maybe I just don't see the issue, Donald, I'm speaking to. If you have a road fund, what's the difference between using what funds you have and contracting to have road work done and our employees doing the work? You can still take that money from that fund and hire, as Councilor Jones said, hire a subcontractor to come in and repair what roads you can with those funds, because it's road repair.
Yes,
Is
as
that
long as
accurate?
you understand what I think Ms. Jones is talking about, and she's right on. You're talking about a repair on a road, not a repaving of a road.
Right.
But yes, that is correct. That's a good assessment.
And
of it.
repair of the road is road fund use.
Correct.
So while we may not be able to get every road we want, we can still
We can get
make
we can get the worst spots. Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood, because it seemed like it was all or nothing was being talked, and we can repair some roads with that funds if it stays in that category.
We are repairing roads. I mean, has anybody driven over Fifth Ave over here north of McMillan? I mean, where there was an old set of railroad tracks. By the way, that's a cold patch.
I'm the one who sent pictures.
So
patch
I
looks
mean,
great.
they did an amazing job there, and they worked really hard on that.
Yeah.
So yes, we can repair roads.
You can
we are
repair
repairing
what
roads,
you can with the money you're given.
and the time and the personnel that we have. Yes, sir.
sir. And if you don't have the personnel, then you have the option, if you have the money, to hire somebody.
Yes, sir. At the council's discretion, absolutely.
Yes. And I believe that's what they're talking about. I believe that's what Councilor Jones was talking about. So I want to just go on the record. I have in my area a citizen that complained greatly, felt she had to call the mayor to get her roads replaced. And my counsel to her was, look, they're doing everything they can. It's a pothole in the road. You can drive around it. It's not all the way across the road. You can just drive around it. And I want you to know that I saw that you guys had went down 7th Street. I saw the men working hard, patching there at 7th Street and 2nd Avenue. And I saw that you had patched a lot of things. And she saw that you had not patched her street. And so you have patched her street. And I have reminded her that you guys are doing everything you can. And I know that you are working as hard as you can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions, or can we move on to the next item? We've got quite a few budgets, unfortunately, to cover.
So did we decide what we're doing?
We're leaving it like it is. Okay. And they're gonna adjust the dollars.
So next, if you look at your order of your sheet, I'll let Selena hop in here. Technically, part of utilities is customer service, and I'll let her go ahead and sneak in and cover hers before I move on to electric, gas, water, all that good stuff.
What page is that, ma'am?
73.
Or 53, depending on which way you look at it.
Customer service, right?
Yes.
Not billing, but customer service.
Yeah, it's customer service / billing.
And billing. Okay.
So the only difference really on mine is the postage is going up again in a couple months, and then again in a couple months after that. So we put in some more for the postage / billing. That's mailing out all the utility bills. I am working with our new software. Hopefully we'll be up and running soon with that. And I'm pricing out some different options on the people that actually print and mail the bills. So hopefully we'll find a little bit of savings there. And then I did put a little bit more in for training, because as you know, we finally got a new customer service person. So now we have 2 customer service reps again. And I'd like to be able to get them some additional help, and then as well with our finance team, myself and accounts payable. And then that's pretty much the only changes that I have.
So why does it say there are 3 customer service reps? As far as I know, there's Jennifer and Jennifer.
Yeah.
But that page says there are 3 customers.
Where do you see that?
Right at the very top, under salaries and wages, it says there's 3 customer service reps.
I don't know. Because if you look at the staffing plan, you see there's the 2,
I know.
myself and then AP.
Okay, so you think it's got only 2 sets of wages? Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I'd love to have another one. But that was the only changes that I had.
If you look at the next page, page 74 or 54 in some of your packets, we can talk about electric. Again, some of the things that we didn't end up asking for, but I wanted to put on your radar. We are going to be, over the next few years, asking for another lineman. As the city continues to grow and provide bigger services, we're going to need to go in that direction. So, again, you will not see that in your packet this year, but I wanted to put it on your radar. Instead of going line by line, does anyone have any questions for us on the electric budget?
So are there currently 3 linemen and 1 apprentice?
No, ma'am. There's currently 2 linemen And then there are apprentices that are at different levels. You have a
Okay.
B apprentice, a C apprentice, a regular apprentice, and then you have a
This
few.
budget's showing 3, so we can save that money right away.
Where is it? On the staffing plan?
No, right there under expenditures, salaries and wages, lineman A, lineman B, lineman C.
Right. Those are not. No. So a lineman A is the only true blue lineman. A lineman B is an apprentice. A lineman C is apprentice. So you have the supervisor, which is Mr. Mike Miller. He's a lineman. He's a lineman A.
Right.
And then you have the lineman A. That's Matthew Pate. Those are our only 2 linemen. Everyone else is an lineman apprentice. When you see anything B and below, it's an apprentice.
There's no way we could know that because the one below does say apprentice.
I understand.
I appreciate you telling me that.
I'm just kind of curious. Why does Mike's salary show 90,000 and the lineman?
Because of the hours. Because we have built-in overtime hours that we know are going to be done by the lineman, Mr. Pate.
Because he's supervised. He's salary.
Because he's salary, correct.
Yeah.
There's no overtime there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Did you say Mike was salary?
Yes, sir.
And when I was talking about having to be competitive, that's them right there.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are so hard to find because we can't afford to pay them.
So Matt Pate took 2.5 years to hire from the
Yeah.
time you guys gave us permission for the position. It took us 2.5 years to fill the position.
I remember that. And like I said, those were the positions I'm talking about. There are some few others too, but this is one of them.
Yeah, and Jonathan wanted me to point out that if you look at lineman pay, our linemen, our 2 that we have, are about $12 on average underpaid per hour.
Yeah.
That's why we want to be real nice to them.
I would encourage that, yes, sir.
And that's why I really appreciate them because I know they're underpaid too.
Yes, ma'am.
Because they just must love us.
Yes, but not everyone has the mortality rate that's in linemen.
That's right. It's hard.
Lineman is next to like fishing out in Alaska in a boat. A lineman is the number one.
That wasn't anything bad when I said it.
I understand.
Just saying everybody's underpaid.
I'm advocating for my staff, Ms. Hines, and I'm telling you that it's the most dangerous job that's here at the city.
It is, and that's what I was trying to say earlier as well.
Right next to the
Even
police
though
officer.
you put the gun on, he's up here getting electrocuted.
You're welcome. I got you back.
In Dallas, is he an apprentice?
He is listed as your lineman apprentice. So that's the lowest level of. So what happens is when they're groundmen, if they're selected and they pass a preliminary test through a Tennessee Valley training program, and they pass that, they're allowed to then move to an apprentice status, and that's just called an apprentice. And then as they do modules, there's 5 modules, 5 classroom modules that are week-long training, and then very comprehensive book and online coursework that matches the module that they went and did. Each module that they do increases the level that they are until they finally become and achieve through hours and the training a lineman A. And it is only a lineman A that can work independently with a groundman and not have any kind of supervision when they're working on an outage or something that requires working on live power.
They're the ones so hard to find.
Yes, ma'am.
So, real briefly, a lineman is someone who deals with the electrical lines.
So a lineman is someone that works on distribution. Kind of the way to think about that is like our water crew is distribution water operators. So they work on mains and service lines. And then the difference would be a plumber, like you'd hire for your house, would be someone certified to work on the inside of the house or the yard, basically the other side of the meter. Linemen are the same way. You have an electrician that you hire for your house, for repair, for a commercial. They're the ones that work on the customer side of the meter, and then your linemen work on our side of the meter.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Martin.
This breakdown of what employees you have, supervisor, lineman A, B, and C, is that an ideal distribution of levels? I mean, would you prefer to have 2 lineman A's and only 1 C, or is this an ideal employee distribution of employees?
We're getting there. I mean, when John came in as the director, I mean, the entire electric department from beginning to end was 3 people, and we were suffering incredibly. and it was very unsafe. And so we've been slowly building a budget and building a staff to meet the demand. What ideally you want to have is for every apprentice and groundman, you have an A lineman. And that's what we're trying to work toward eventually. So you have a team that you send out. You have an A lineman, makes the calls, trains, make sure that they're responsible. They're kind of like your on-site crew leader. That would be Matt, for example. And he would have an apprentice underneath of him, and then they would have a groundman underneath them. Then you have the other side of electric, which is working around hotlines and power. But they're just a tree trimmer. That's Mr. Castles. And in order to keep our outage report down and keep our lines and stuff from being destroyed, we have a trimming program where we go out and hopefully every 3 years we get to every place around town where we have our infrastructure, and he trims, and then he also needs a groundman. Then you have Mr. Miller, who we've turned into more of our project manager, where he's not out in the field as much because we need him in here planning things, working with the developers' agreements, making sure that when we have inspections or poll programs and things of that nature, that kind of the administrative end of that is covered. But it needs to be covered in the office by someone who really understands the transformer loads and the voltages and all of those things. So that's the direction that we're moving into. It's been a lot more successful, I think, than it has in the past. Terry's helped us through FMPA to get metrics where we're for the first time the last year tracking outages and time periods and where the outages are and what are the biggest trouble spots. So we're starting to build metrics to critique ourselves and build a better response during any kind of emergency or regular outage.
Yes, and over the last 3 years since I've been on council, I've seen the huge improvement in utilities, just like I have with the.
Yeah, I
police
guess
and
my
fire.
question is, looking forward, where do you see if you could have one more employee tomorrow, where would he fall?
He would be an A lineman. And so the reason for that is because what we've discovered is it's so hard to hire an A lineman, we're going to have to create an A lineman. So what we've been trying to do is create, a succession plan of someone comes in, they're a great candidate, they started as a ground person, they pay their dues, they pass the test, they're approved into the apprenticeship program, then they have to work 5 years. It takes 5 years for someone to go from an apprentice to a lineman A. And if you have the people above them that can facilitate that training, we're basically just producing our own linemen as opposed to hoping that we can be competitive out there with GRU or Ocala or Duke or someone like that.
And is that where the $35,000 for training schools and seminars is coming into play?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's exactly where that is. One TV PPA course is generally around $1,200 or more. That's the physical class. The books are $700 to $800 that match the class. You have to do both. Then you're sending them down to Kissimmee or sending them over to Alabama. And so then if you've got a week-long hotel stay on top of that, so it's many thousands of dollars per module that each one of these classes cost.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any more questions?
And just clarification, Mike is an A as well.
Yes, ma'am. He's the supervisor. He is an A
If we
lineman,
had to
yes.
have him, he would be there.
Yeah, A or journey?
Mike is an A, journeyman, and Matt is an A, journeyman. And I believe Matt has currently got valid, up-to-date on all the communications and the fiber. And then we have another person on the staff that's an apprentice that went through the program, and they got certified in all the fiber. So we're building that up as well so that basically we follow the model of Ocala, and we just utilize the same department to work around the power, which is where any fiber would go.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Anybody else have any more questions? Thanks, sir. Next one.
The next one is on page 76, or in your packets, maybe 56, and that is the Utility Gas Service Fund. And again, if you all have any questions on that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
And how many employees do you have in the gas?
I believe that's 5.
5.
Now, meter readers are split up. One's in gas, one's in water. So one of those is just a meter reader.
So the revenue is decreased significantly.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's because we think it's gonna.
No, ma'am. That's because of market forces. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Your winter is your payday, and also your agricultural production through 2 of our industrial clients. This year they had a much smaller yield, which means they burnt a lot less gas. And then if you remember this last winter, we had very few cold days.
Yep, that's
and
true.
so, you're committed to purchasing so much gas no matter what. So if you can't bill for it, your revenues are going to go down slightly. We also had a lot more expenditures. A lot of the gas expenditures were done through Country Lane Estates for the gas there, which will be our last one, thank goodness, that we ever have to pay for ourselves. But yes, there's a lot of that's a pretty big answer because there's a lot of contributing factors to why revenue was down.
So you have a surplus of gas at the moment?
So no, just because it's not used or delivered doesn't mean we don't have to pay for it. It's a commodity, unfortunately. So
did we overbook it?
Well, we did, but it's always a guesstimate.
Yeah.
Because if you underbook it, you end up paying what the market rate is instead of your prepay program. So there's always a formula. That's not something staff does. That's something that FGU does. That's who we contract through. Some years they perform really well for us and they return profits. And that's the other thing too, is usually once a year they look at the profits of the whole co-op and they usually send us a discounted rate to reduce one of our payments to them by a certain amount. I think in 1 year previously it was like $35,000 that we got back because we got better than what we paid basically.
So it's just kind of listen to the weather people. And see
And
what
in
they
about
say.
in about a month, Katie Hall will be here. She's the president of FGU now. She'll be doing a presentation on another thing, including the rate stabilization and stuff. When she's here, I would encourage y'all to ask her. Matter of fact, ahead of time, I can mention to her to bring maybe Megan in the office, who does a lot of the future purchasing and the market stuff. And if you guys have specific questions, I'd probably leave those to them. I think I have a grasp of it, but they're the ones that do it for a living, so they're probably the better people to ask.
All right, thank you.
And
Smart.
and other contractual services, the $125,000 budgeted.
Yes, ma'am.
What's that for?
So we split up engineering for Wright Pierce and other contracts. Also, we've had many repairs that have been required. An audit for last year for the Gas Public Service Commission came out and stated that our Northwest 7th Gate Station had to be completely replaced, which we are doing right now. The next thing that was on the list that he gave us 2 years to do the complete rebuild of the gate station at the sewer plant. That's our oldest station, and it's been there since 1959. So,
I didn't even know there was one at the sewer station.
Yes, ma'am. It's our oldest one.
I had no idea.
So we have to redo that. So we built in those. I like to, when I come with you guys to y'all and say, hey, we need to do this, and you ask me, is it budgeted? I love when the answer is yes.
Thank you.
So why is that under contractual instead of repairs? Because you're having somebody else do it.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's if you remember, Kirsten's talked to you about FGU has like a cooperative with eQuix, so we don't have to go out to bid because it's our sole provider through our contract with FGU, and so that's who that's for is eQuix. Yes, ma'am.
And under the capital improvement for gas line extension, where are you planning to do that?
The airport. Monterey is begging us to get up to 100 pounds and to spend a lot more money on gas. In the meantime, if we supply them a 100-pound line, I can split off a small 24-pound line and give it to the crematorium, which I've been wanting to do for quite some time. Again, selling more gas. Also can start to have a foothold into airport so that if Benton has customers that have anything to do with gas, it's there and provided for them as a service.
And do you have to put down a whole new line?
It's brand new line. So it's an extension. It ends, it's capped and valved at B&G. And we would bring it up that road, and then we would come in the one side, the west side there of the airport property, and come along basically that property line that divides the T hangers
so
and
that's the way it comes now, or does it come from the gate station?
Well, B&G is just a continuation of the gate station.
Right.
It feeds B&G, but B&G has their own distribution gate station.
Right.
So that line was designed to continue one day. So we're going to pick up where it was designed to continue as a 6-inch main.
And come back this way.
And come back south.
Okay.
Or go south and get into the airport.
Go south. on D&G.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you go south on that road, you remember where the sheriff's hangar is?
I do.
You'll be just north of the
So
sheriff's
they're going
hangar.
to come in the backside.
Yes, ma'am. Just north of the sheriff's hangar, next to that road on the.
Because I know you're already past the airport when you're at B&G. That's
Right.
why I'm confused.
So it'd be on the opposite. It'd be
So
on
you're just
the
gonna
outside
track
of the
back.
road.
Well, we're past the airport on the west, but the airport main property is south of B&G.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So
So you-
B&G is south also.
But not the part that's right. Not the part that we sell
Never
gas
mind.
to.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. You're correct.
It
It's
doesn't
just
matter at all.
that's their growing area and whatnot. That's not their production area.
Okay,
Well, like I
we're,
say,
we're
it'll-
doing most of the work on this. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
perfect.
Yeah, we can spend like 190,000, or we can spend 60 and do it ourselves. So.
Stuff.
But streets and parks will be helping with that a little bit, just to let you know.
Ms. Hines, you got any
Just as long as they do pothole Monday or whatever day it is.
Nope. Okay.
I'm good.
You good? All right, sir.
You
Next
asked my
contestant.
All right, page 77 or 57 is a continuation again of the gas, and then we get on to sewer. Sewer is broken into two categories and two separate budgets. One is collections. For those of you who don't know, collections is basically like flowing out from your house through the mains, through the service lines, through the lift stations, and it's everything outside of the sewer plant. So that's your collections. That's your distribution, so to speak, for your sewer. And that's the first budget, and we can cover them at the same time. The second one is your plant budget, or what we call your treatment, and that is the plant budget itself. So if you have any questions on any of those line items, I'm more than welcome to answer.
The upgrades that's been done out there, sewer department, the buildings, everything, it's fantastic.
Thank you.
I mean, the one building I remember seeing it a year and a half ago. It's where you went in and put the TVs, and that place was a disaster.
Yes, sir.
And now it looks really good. Yeah, it does.
We're trying.
So, and I'm sure if we were to apply for a grant and they wanted to come look at our facilities, they would look at it and go, okay, I can see where we need to give them a grant.
We saved $4,000 on the apprenticeship program because we were able to host it. We host 6 other cities once a month, and it's because we can host it there. And and that also opened up a relationship even more with Florida Rural Water, who does water and sewer, with us. And like there was the high school's lift station went down. We needed a bypass pump, and because we're building those relationships, we got that bypass pump from them from up in Gainesville, and I mean that was a lifesaver for the school to continue it basically on while we had a repair done.
And we're no longer doing the spray field.
We do have the spray field, yes, ma'am.
I know we do, but you took it out of the budget.
So we took it out of the budget because the cost of fixing it and doing what we need to do, we're hoping will be part of the study for the SRF funding, because it'll be part of the plant. It's actually the plant. It's actually treatment, the spray field. It's not collections, believe it or not.
Sure.
And so when we talk to Wright Pierce, we're hoping that can be part of a package when we finish doing another digester, another clarifier and things of that nature, that the spray fields will have to be part of one of those repairs. Also, DEP is looking at possibly allowing us to not just do spray fields, but maybe even do some ribs/spray fields, which kinds of when your ground is sampled, you're only allowed to put certain nutrients in. The ribs will put in certain nutrients. The spray fields will put in another. The spray fields are heavy on what we call total nitrates, and the total nitrates that go down into the water table and the aquifer are what they're trying to fight.
Right.
And so, yes, that's why we kind of took it out of there, because it's a little bit more heavy duty what needs to be done to the spray fields, and we didn't want to piecemeal it.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Hines, you got any questions? All right. Next.
All right. If you go on page 60, I believe, in your packet, 80 in ours, we have the solid waste. I don't know if Terry wants to cover that while we're here. Okay. Then we'll skip that and go to water. That's GFL. No. No, that's definitely not solid waste. It's more liquefied.
Yeah, no. So
That's
I'm good.
not his expertise.
I actually had a question on page 58. So was what caught me sleeping was
His APR.
the lift station technician, 100%, 77,764. Who is that?
Lift station technician, there should be 2 of them.
Okay, all right. So that's
and
2.
So that's 2. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
Thank you. I can give you an update on GFL. So we plan on having them here the 16th to present to the board. You know what our recommendation is to move forward with the extension of the contract based on the administrative process changes that I've requested, which is that we basically have they're going to handle the internal reconciliation of the account. And then basically to set up a Williston number where if you call here, basically it's going to be transfer you, and they're supposed to pick up the phone, GFL Williston. They guaranteed me that. So other than that, the cost that we're getting from them is relatively it's cheap. It's a direct pass through. Unfortunately, we're not making any money on it. Administratively, if I try to recover any cost for the contract, I'm simply going to be raising the rates on the citizens to do it.
Are you talking about trash?
Trash. Yeah.
We don't make any money.
Mr.
They
Mills.
don't do that. They don't do that great job.
If GFL can provide us with a number that they will answer, I can give you a local number tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's the key thing. So
What happened?
that's basically the 2 big
And an
things
extension,
we
we can transfer calls directly to them.
He says he can set it up. Is that what you're saying? You can set it up?
If they'll provide me a number that they'll answer, I can give you a local number people can call, and I'll just forward it.
It'll just
I can make that happen tomorrow. All I need is a phone number
Don't
they're
even
going to
have to
answer.
answer it.
That's even better.
So right now, who's answering the?
Sorry.
Right.
Loud enough. The problem is we can't come up with another number. We already have a number for GFL for our customers to call.
Yeah, yeah.
The problem is if they have a problem,
They
they're
call
going to call
City
City Hall because that's who bills them. So what we are planning to do with them is GFL is going to set up a dedicated number. We will put that like on a speed dial button with customer service. And then that way when a customer calls us and has a problem, we can say, please hold, I'm going to transfer you to GFL. They don't have to hang up the phone and call another number. So that's what Terry and I and GFL we've discussed.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Good deal. Good deal.
Yeah. And what's occurring in the opposite, which really is fine with me, is that GFL, we're looking at our bill and we're reconciling it and finding their mistakes, and not their mistakes to their benefit. I mean, it's their detriment. So they have 2 dumpsters at a place, they're charging for 1 and picking up for 2. Well, I don't think we should do their work. And so the agreement that I've worked out with them, unless somebody could tell me we're doing it wrong, is that we're going to take the customer's accounts, which we know are accurate, and we're going to send that money or send the bill over to them saying, this is what we've collected. You got 15 days to reconcile your account. Get back with us if you found any mistakes. And after the 15 days, we're going to pay what our citizens pay. Because we are not finding any in the opposite direction. It's always a mistake on their end when they're picking up more than they're charging, which I'm fine with. So.
Their problem if they're not paying any attention.
Yes, yes. And
Well,
other
it's our
cities,
benefit.
do it this way, even with GFL. They admitted to us that no, we actually have several accounts that do it exactly the way you want to do it. So
What kills me is we don't have a franchise fee.
yeah,
I mean, they should be paying us to be here.
yeah, but we signed a 3-year contract with 5-year extensions, and so when what they're saying is the discussion we had, where if we don't accept this contract with it, which is low, and yeah, we're not making any money off of it, we cannot do it internally ourselves, because if we picked up trash 4 days a week, we could probably afford it with the trucks. And Donald and I worked out some numbers on the whiteboard with the trucks and the staff and the people and the freight charges and everything. You know, you would make money if you were running 4 days in the city. Well, they're running 4 days. They're going here, Bronson, Trenton. You know, that's where they're making their money. And we just don't have enough capacity or enough
Customer
people,
base.
customer base to run 3 to 4 days a week. So it's way too much money for us to get into that. So the other option is to go out.
I was trying to say there are other companies who want our business.
They are, and that could be the direction we'll travel. But you know, I can almost guarantee it from what I'm seeing is from even Bronson and places like that. They're charging their customers $10 more than what we're charging. And just my personal belief, we just hit them with a bunch of rate changes. They're tapped out. I'm not, sir, if I can help it. So, and I know y'all hear from it too, and I hear from it. You know, people drag you in the hallway and talk to you about it. And it's weary on people to have to keep going over the same thing. And then they hit them with now another $10 or $15 a month with a solid waste disposal. I just people think it wins enough.
I will say, at least when we had Waste Pro,
They didn't charge us $10 more than that.
no, but they were bad about it. If they did not do a pickup, they weren't coming back out. At least with GFL, if you call them and say, hey, they didn't get picked up on this, they would get somebody to take care of it.
Yeah, and even if we have to, you know, we will go out and get it, and then they'll come get it from us. You know, because remember, it's about service. But I can tell you that I've never gotten bad service from GFL, except for one time when there was graffiti on a dumpster. And I kept seeing it, and I finally worked so far and said, look, just give me the spray paint. I don't care. But get this dumpster out of my city. Mike, well, he's already gone, but, you know, he'll be back, I'm sure. But graffiti is a big issue. So, you know, since Kevin's been there, you know, we've had a really good working relationship.
Yeah.
The question is, you know, they're wanting us to sign, like I said, a 5-year extension. So that's what's in the contract. Well, that's in the contract. The first contract was whatever it was, and if we want to extend that contract at the same cost, it's a 5-year extension.
That could be a benefit to us because if cost on their end goes up, if they're signing at you know at what we're currently doing, it could benefit us.
What could I will tell you this that their contract also includes a CPI increase, so that comes no matter what.
And is it costing us $67,345? That's what I'm looking at.
I don't know. Stephen does it. 69. I got for 24 says that's how much we're.
The projected is $69,246.
Yeah.
That's a favorable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the difference.
And what's the negative 862 over here?
That was.
Is that a typo?
No, that was budget. So we're doing better than our budget.
Okay.
So in 2023, we lost $30 million.
Right.
And then, again, I'm not sure this is a function of how they're doing the billing, but each month
Yeah. Yeah, because it was budgeted that we were going to lose $9,000. So how are we making 64?
Projected 2024, you hired a new city manager.
I don't know.
That's for sure.
He may be meaner, but that's it.
The cost is actually, you can see the cost where a lot of this is coming in. We budgeted $662.
Right.
And we're only getting billed around $600. So I'm curious to see Terry go on about the differential. But that's all differential basically. What we bill, what they bill us. There's no magic to it.
So they must maybe the errors that they're finding here. And that's my question is, when you turn it all over to them, are you going to trust them?
I'm not turning it all over. What I'm doing is that the customer will come in and pay the city, and whatever the customer says that they owe is what we're going to send to them.
And unless they prove different, you're not going to send them.
They
anymore.
have to prove to me that it's wrong.
Okay.
So now.
So we'll send them our billing, pretty much our billing summary every month, and it's up to them to let us know, hey, we're picking up garbage at these people's house. So we're going to tell them.
Sorry, the utilities are closed. They've been moved for 6 months.
Right. We are going to tell them what we're going to pay them, pretty much.
Okay.
But like I said, if it was where we were finding the mistakes in the opposite, in other words, they were overcharging us and we weren't catching it, paying.
Which they were before.
Yeah. Well,
before you guys took it over.
When it takes 3 months to reconcile the bill, yeah, that
right.
happened. Right. Megan can do it now. That are we?
About a day.
Yeah. So, and like I said, they've reassured me, and she's shown me, and to be honest with you, she levies fines against them too when they do stuff wrong, which we never done before. So, until somebody can show me where we're losing money or we're being overcharged by them, this is really a problem that could be on their end. I don't feel like we should be reconciling their bill for that.
Well, this says we're making money now. Before we were losing.
Apparently.
Oh, we were.
Yeah, I thought it was almost a direct pass through. I don't know.
All right. Ms. Hines, you got any questions? Ms. Martin, you got any? Ms. Jones?
I'm good.
Page 81 in our packet. Water. Does anyone have any questions?
Other contractual services that went down.
Other contractual services went down.
Well, you budgeted 35 and 35, but we actually spent 67.
Correct. And that is an adjustment that could possibly be made, but the reason for the 67 is because of twofold and sampling and boil water notices and kind of an uncontrollable factors.
Okay.
So. They were approved through council, I promise that. Like one of them had to do with the well at the barn well.
Yeah. And the GPR, that's the device that we wanted to buy that you could use elsewhere as well.
Capital outlay, if you'll go to page 62.
Uh-huh.
Under capital outlay, you'll see capital outlay GPR device, 60,000. That 60,000, I promise you all, if we use that GPR device and locating, it will save us way more than that, probably within the first couple of years. We've spent on one leak alone, I think something like $38,000 on repairs. And that was something we could not have found without some sort of special device like a GPR. There's no locate wire on it. It's plastic. I mean, there's just no way of knowing it's there. So we're hoping to bring that down. And that was another position that we asked for in the budget this year was a locator. Someone who full-time, all they do is locate, which obviously you all know, again, we didn't end up asking for any new positions, but that is something that we should consider in next year's budget. We are doing approximately 50 to 75 locates on an average week. Those are not high weeks. Those are average weeks. That amounts to between 2,600 and 3,000 a year. And that is all the things that are going on. The communication lines being put on, the works on the roads, DOT, any building, any development. Basically, the moment that you take a shovel and you want to put it into the ground, we're required within our service area, not just even the city limits, but our service area to go out and report that we have properly located all of our utilities. So that's the GPR is a big step forward on that. But again, we're going to need someone to actually have the time to do that full time. And that's probably a direction that we're going to be moving into. Also, oh yes, even tree permits. tree permits. John said, we have to do locates on those. So right of way permits, all of that stuff. So
And what percentage would you say of our lines have no wire down for locates?
So what's great about the old lines is there's some sort of metallic material, metal or steel or iron. So those, even though you don't have a line, you can generally get a signal on. The problem comes in where we went in and repaired crews years ago, and when they started making plastic in the late 80s, and they would cut open that and they would put a piece of plastic in, and then what we do is we take a wire and we weld it to one side and we go over the plastic to the other side so there's a continuation of that signal. Well, they didn't do that back then, so there's interruptions in the line. So you think a line's ended, but if you went down the road another 500 feet, all of a sudden it picks back up. So, oh yeah, I mean, it can be great distances before you have a meter that you can pick up that signal again. So, yes, GPR is basically like an X-ray photo. We'll send them off to a training class, whichever device that we purchase. That'll be done, probably have to be done through a RFQ or RFP. And once you guys approve that and all that, that person will be sent off with that company to go do that training. And it's basically like learning how to become like an X-ray technician or an ultrasound technician. It's kind of that futuristic. And you have to learn how to read that and know what's a line. It doesn't show up like a really nice picture.
See what you're looking
yeah,
at, right?
It doesn't take a picture of, like under the ground. It more gives you a scan, and you have to read those wavelengths.
So it'd be a great purchase at $60,000.
Well, I'll just put it this way. If we were to cut down on, let's say, 3 of the 6 major issues that we had this year, that price tag savings on those 3 alone would have paid for this device. And that's where we're trying to get.
Ms. Hines, you got any questions? Smart.
No, that sounds sensible to me for sure.
Jones?
No, sir.
Next.
All right, page 63 in your packet, 83 in ours. I believe this should be the end of ours. Utility fund, the stormwater. 2 years ago, we created a stormwater budget because of House Bill 53 that we spent money on. We were the only municipality or county organization in Levy County that actually followed through on that and has our stuff up to date with the state. They're working on, I think, the next legislative session, they're finally talking about releasing some funding for some grants. I know that Wright Pierce and I spoke about one. I think, Ms. Deborah, I told you about it. You sent us a list, too, because I think you get some of them.
I do.
One of those that we can apply for this round is because we did House Bill 53.
Cool.
So we want to start expanding that budget. Roads are not the only issue. We talked a lot about the stormwater problems. You guys have had quite a few residents in here about stormwater. And we try to, listen to what people say and kind of adjust how we perform. So there's engineering money in here. There's repair money. We're hoping that this is money that could possibly even be our match to a grant. If it's a 75-25 or a 30-70 or something of that nature. But we need to make this more robust. One of the things that always upsets y'all is, we want to go get a grant, but you have to be shovel ready. So a lot of this is to be shovel ready on some of those things in the future so that we don't have to go looking for that money.
It's good to see sinking funds put in.
Yes, and the materials and supplies I wanted to point out is specifically for Cornelius Williams. One of the things that's holding up the Cornelius Williams grant is that we can't develop the fields and the fence until the stormwater's done. I believe Walt Nickel was in here about 2 months ago, and he addressed that we had moved forward on that. We're in the final stages of SwiftMud doing our permits and accepting our design, and then we're going to need money to actually hire a company to do that work. Once that stormwater's work, that park can get that almost $500,000, and we can start working on the next grant, getting that park further developed.
Awesome.
So this $75,000 could be paid for with the grant, or part of it, or is this the match?
That the $75,000 would be for materials and supplies to actually hire a company to do the stormwater work.
Okay, so actually the building of it.
Correct. Coming
not
in
just
and,
the design.
Correct. The design's already been done through the miscellaneous fund.
Right, I think I've seen that. Okay.
Ms. Hines, do you have any questions? Martin?
The professional services, is that mostly Wright Pierce, or is that
It sometimes is Wright Pierce. It could be any other firm. Like sometimes Wright Pierce will tell us that that's outside their purview, or something of that nature. I mean, we have a contract with Wright Pierce. This most likely would go to them, but it's not a guarantee. I mean, you guys could decide to go with a different company or something.
Ms. Jones? No. Thank you, sir. Any more?
No, sir. Unless you have any questions on the staffing plan, that's all we have.
Blown away.
No other questions? All right. This HR.
Trying to find it.
All right, where you at, Ms. Jones? I mean, this HR.
She's near the front. Oh, page 20. Yeah, I finally found it. Are you awake back there?
I am awake.
Are you sure?
Yes. Yes.
I wouldn't blame you if you weren't.
So I think that based on this budget, we just stayed like we were the previous budget. We haven't made any changes. Obviously, the software maintenance has been taken out. It's in IT. The payroll processing fees for ADP. My understanding is that was a want from previous HR. But we have Edmunds.gov, which is taking care of our HR module and that. So everything else is kind of.
So we're going to delete that line?
I believe that is accurate, right, Stephen?
It has $4,500 still in it.
Is that supposed to be for your EAP?
That's the payroll processing fees, from my understanding. But that's.
I'll take a back and see if I can.
Yeah.
We've never had any payroll processing.
And I think that the.
If I may, I think
The dues and subscriptions, I believe, is where the EAP came out of. Is that's why where there was so much of an increase.
I can answer the 4,500.
Sure, go ahead.
So originally, when we went out for Edmunds.gov, we did not have the HR manual. At that time, the current HR manager and the city manager at that time wanted to do a separate program. So you guys accepted that, got a contract with them, signed it, and all that. When Terry came in, reevaluated, when the next HR came in and reevaluated, they said, why aren't we just using the one that has it as part of a package? But it's in it. Each thing that you build with Edmunds is an additional thing. I believe that's the share of Edmunds for them.
So the payment of the module that goes with it.
I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that is the discussion that was had.
But to answer your question, that piece has been added to the payroll stuff has been added to the IT budget, so this would come out. I just need to make sure EAP is somewhere.
I believe it's under dues and subscriptions.
All right.
Yeah, but $600 is not enough.
So you're going to fix it for us.
Any other questions?
Gotcha. Ms. Martin?
No.
Do you have anything?
No,
Ms. Jones? All right. IT, you're up.
Well, good evening. And for the record, I'd like to say this is the worst day of my vacation.
Are you still on vacation?
Yes, I am.
Oh, no. What page are you on?
I have no idea.
56, did you say? Can't be 56. What page did you say? 26. Maybe we should go in order of the book next time. I think I do. but I didn't do the agenda.
I'll remind you next year.
I can't remember from year to year. You must begin. Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Have a wonderful night. I'm going home.
We're just about done.
I'm trying to figure out which is this page
That's what you think.
on the agenda. 86.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. As most of you know, we kind of started this IT with no idea what we needed to do, and we built this budget on speculation. This one is pretty much the same thing as we had last year. We did move some numbers around because we found some places where we were a little under budget and some places we were a little over, but overall it's for the most part the same money. Increases in areas like cell phones is included because police department added 9-10 laptops. Well, that's a cell phone service on top of the laptop. More hotspots, more backups, we just increase those areas. As we add staff, we end up with more telephones or lines, So just adjusting those numbers where we need to.
So these are the numbers for the whole city?
Yes.
For the internet, telephone, and cell service
Yes.
for the whole city?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool.
Any questions?
It's your turn.
Your contingency rent?
Yeah, I took it from him.
Why?
I needed.
You needed it?
I needed it.
He needed to balance the budget, right?
He was on vacation, and I needed a little bit of money.
And he needed $10,000.
There is a central contingency at the bottom of the general fund, and that's going to have to do.
Oh.
Unless we find something else.
And what happened to the software purchases? The implementation and all that, it's zero.
The software implementation is going to zero by that time. The main maintenance is going in the first line up there where it says subscription/maintenance.
So it got moved.
It's going to be moved, yeah.
From implementation to actual.
The big number part of implementation was the initial money we paid out for Edmonds.
Right.
So that pretty much went away.
And no singing.
And this is separate than CalLink, which is revenue generating. These
That
are
is
just
correct.
expenditures.
And we had an increase in salary and wage. Sorry.
Here we go again.
Do I need to play the audio clip from the YouTube?
No. Did you get the
He's got
3% on top of that as well?
He actually got 12.5 last time.
You want his opinion or
And
mine?
he's getting 12.5.
No,
this time.
I'm asking because we just gave 3%. So I'm saying because he was slated to get 12, but is he getting the 3 as well? Just 12.
It's not in the budget that way. It's just the 12.5 right now.
Okay.
That's what's right in there right
That's enough.
I'm content with what's in the budget.
The question, guys.
No, we agree with you.
Yeah, he's
That's a good
good with a
question.
12.
I was just curious. I didn't know if he was getting the 3% on top of. Or
We had a
just
long
the-
public
No, that would be
discussion about it today,
15%.
and he's saying he's good with the 12.5%, and even if the city gets 3%.
Okay.
So, which is what he was
No, I
promised.
just was wondering if he was getting 15. Not.
No,
Oh.
12
I mean, if-
12 point whatever.
In my opinion, yes, I should, but I'm okay.
Okay, I'm just asking the question. That's fine. Good. Okay.
I have no questions. she's got the giggles down there. And this is administration, right? It's not on the list. We'll have to add it.
Go ahead, Aaron.
We'll add it later. What page are you, Latricia?
No, Aaron can go ahead. I just needed to stand up.
Stand up, yeah.
Oh. All right, so CalLink is in the back under its own tab.
Yeah, CalLink, page 66 in your book.
I don't lose my calendar here. It's up there.
I think we did the same thing here. We just made some small adjustments on a few things, but everything kind of stayed the same. Our expansion that we've done by adding the fiber and more access points, we've been able to grow the client list. I think we're up to 34 accounts on right now, which is increasing our revenue as we go. So, I mean, that's part of the plan, getting it where we are making money instead of losing money.
So where are you located now as far as percentage of the city that is
Oh, percentage? That wouldn't even be a good number.
for real?
It because of the initial Wi-Fi that's off the blue water tank. Basically, if you can see the blue water tank, you can get it. If you can go out at night and see the red light blinking on top, you're probably good to get it.
So you're talking about the fiber optics.
We expanded fiber, ran up North Main, straight up 5th Place to the sewer plant. And along that way, we added access points along the way. So I've got basically access service now added to customers all up North Main, down 5th Place into CLE. I've got a couple of customers in CLE that decided they didn't want the fiber that was in there. They wanted ours.
Okay. But that still is basically, you have to be able to see the light.
No, ma'am.
That's
You got to
something
be
totally
within 300 to 600 feet of one of these access points,
Oh,
which the plan is to put them on every street corner.
But we're just in the beginning stage.
Yes, we're just needing more money to just keep expanding and adding people.
So do we have plan to do it like a sales department for somebody or a couple people to go out?
So, Mr. Cox, if I can, that'll be part of a presentation that the staff gives, a very in-depth presentation on the future expansion of CalLink, and that'd be up for council. I know CFE is coming in to do one, and then the staff's going to do one, and then it's going to be up to council. So we can cover some of that now, but we're going to actually have a presentation on that,
No need
talk
to waste
about
time
with maps and all that kind of stuff.
No, we can wait till then.
And I'm saying we wait on this until then too.
Yeah,
Because
so
we really don't
my
have a
question is, when do y'all plan on doing your presentation?
Right after CFE.
Same night?
No, right after CFE. The next meeting after
Okay,
CFE.
all right. Because at that point, then we'll have the information to make a decision as to what we're going to do. So,
Sounds good to us. Good to you? Thanks. Thank you. What page, ma'am?
Okay, first I have 3 that I'll be going through, and I'm not taking questions tonight. We're going to start with page 16.
Did you say you weren't taking questions? Is that what you said?
Oh, yeah. You will.
You
Page
doing
16
you
is
doing
the
mine
council
too?
budget.
Only you could get away with it. Page 15?
16.
Oh, I started to say.
Yeah, 16, city council budget.
You say you're doing 3 different ones?
Yes. I'm starting with this one first. I've only asked for an increase on dues and training. That's because my council have been very cooperative in attending the different seminars I have signed them up for, and they are willing to accept and grow. And I greatly appreciate that, because that's why they're going to be recognized in August at the Florida League of Cities for their home rule effort. So as you can see in dues, I asked for an increase of almost $1,300, and for training and seminars, $2,600, because I plan on signing the council up for a legislative class in December.
For class?
Class, yes. Thank you very much for your cooperation in attending.
Yes, we just do what she tells us to do.
So that's it
December's a
for.
terrible month, though.
So that is it for council. And again, no questions. No questions.
No questions.
No, seriously. Do you have any questions?
I do. You didn't put us in for an increase in pay.
That's for something for you all to decide
Oh.
as a.
She's one of those charter officers.
Wait. So we get to put in for our own.
You can suggest.
She's
and
a
then-
charter. She's a charter officer, just like the city manager, and we get to choose it. And
No, She's talking about a
Oh, no.
increase for
That's
council.
by charter. We're not allowed to go up.
No question. No more questions.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, page 18.
18. What happened to 17?
That's city manager.
He wanted you to
He
do
does
his.
his own budget.
He's doing his own?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Well, I mean, we can talk about it real quick. There's not a lot of changes to it. So I'll take all the questions you
We're
want.
slap happy down.
Yeah, but the $91,000 figure is a placeholder. Stephen placed on
It is
there.
a placeholder.
That's all it is. So I was kind of curious. My retirement went up 98%.
I see that.
Am I missing something in my 457 plan?
I
I'll
noticed.
take a look at it.
And I ain't, but I want to see the money. So
Well, and not only that, it only looks like about 50%. So
Yeah, but
I don't
you're-
know why that number's the same.
The forecast for this year is about 12.7. So
there you go.
So I think that might have just been light based on the timing.
I see where workers' compensation went up. Is that because I got injured?
It should be.
Yeah, is it? Yeah. So other than that, there's really no changes. If you look at my travel and per diem and all that kind of stuff, I mean, it is what it is. So it's if you have any questions on that, I've raised two that I have. Yes, ma'am.
So when you say placeholder, what does that mean?
That means
91,000?
I'm assuming he's figured probably what y'all gave me percentage-wise last year and added the same thing in there. It doesn't mean that's what you're going to give me this year, nor does that mean I'm going to accept it.
Did you get a 3%?
This year, right now?
Or is it only?
No, it's not a COLA.
No,
so
he's a charter officer. So we set his too.
So he doesn't get.
Not till he gets his evaluation. But you can see that we moved him from 81,667 to 85,585. So he's just Mr. Bloom is just predicting what it.
Yeah, it's 3%.
But it's not a COLA.
It's mighty low.
Yeah, so I would not. I would not.
It's a placeholder. That's exactly.
Yeah,
right
I would not get that 3%. So when the employees get a 3% pay raise in October or whatever,
Yeah, they don't.
y'all
get
give
it
them.
until they're
We don't get that.
Okay.
So
And I,
That was going to be my question.
I know.
If
I
you
think
guys
yours
were
is
getting
in
it as well.
December.
yes, ma'am.
And I can't remember when Patricia.
Earlier,
October,
September,
maybe?
October,
October,
November.
I think, in December.
When's
Mine
yours?
is in August.
August. That's pretty
Ooh.
oh boy.
You're getting busy.
Anytime now.
Yeah,
And what's your safety pay? What's that?
because I didn't. Well, I did hurt myself, but
He's not getting that this year.
I didn't wreck a car.
He doesn't get any safety pay this year.
Yeah, I may not get it. So, hey, look on the bright side. It saved you $25. So, yeah.
Ooh,
So,
$25 and a day off.
Can I just add something
That's cool.
to Terry's on, because he's just so cooperative as well as the council in going to different seminars that I signed him up for. I think he might need to increase his up another $500.
to 3,000.
No, your training seminars. Right now it's at 700.
Oh, I see travel and per diem. Okay, so training and school seminars.
Yes. No, because he also is very cooperative and doesn't complain when I sign him up. Like you all don't. Because I signed him up.
She already knows probably what's being spent.
His budget.
He has his own budget. That's why he gets to go every time. So you want to make that $700 $1,000? Is that what you're saying?
Make it 1,200.
Let's make it. Let's make it
Because
1,000.
unfortunately, these seminars now are going up on their prices.
Yeah, some of them are like $450 a piece.
Yes.
I mean, I'm the one we're getting ready to go to in August is like $450 or something. No, it went to $550. $600. It went
Yes,
to
ma'am.
$600.
Yes.
It was $450. Now it's $600.
Because this is a learning tool. When you all go, you get the tools that you need to be proficient in the job that you do, and I like that.
Can come out of dues and subscriptions.
We got any other questions? We got any other questions for Mr. Brevard?
Yes.
Did you get that?
500.
Did you get that, Mr.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you, Stephen.
No matter to me.
500.
Okay, page 18 is the city clerk. The only thing that I increased was the training,
We have
school and
warned you down.
seminars. I did $200. And the reason for that is next year I'm going to have to take the Florida Records Management course. I have to take it every 2 years in order to keep my certificate.
Her CEUs. she's
But our
gotta go
training,
get.
school, and seminars, I only, yeah,
We're
page
gonna
18. I'm sorry, page 18.
We're going to increase that to 1,400.
No, 1,200.
1,200.
Yes. I had just asked for $200.
Yeah, it's already there.
Yeah.
What was the sorry, I jumped right in.
Okay.
Professional services, other legal. Why was there such a big difference between the budget and projected expenses?
Which one you on?
That's the city attorney.
Below city attorney, other legal.
That's when we have to go outside and get another attorney when our attorney cannot handle litigation.
Like our HR attorney.
Yes.
Or a labor attorney or something.
Yeah, so let's say like I had to hire a labor attorney or something like that to give us some advice on something. That's what that would be. That would be other than Foles and Walker because they do not do labor.
And so we had that expense this year.
Looks like $13,380. We may have had some for the airport too. I'm not sure. Did we use outside
I don't
counsel
remember
for the
seeing it
airport?
For the airport, no.
I can't remember.
The only thing they were talking about is the pension, but that's not from the city.
Right.
Pension.
It would come out of the pension board, pension funds.
And my last one is page 36. Special events.
Oh, that's my special one.
I asked for an increase on material and supplies, and that was asked to help the utility department with the light towers that they get for July 3rd event. Because it cost them what? $27.50
To rent extra units.
Yes. So we agreed upon that. I would pay for it next year. And they're hoping that you all will approve that.
Which one
Page
is that?
36 under
36.
special events. Yes. It went from 3,000 to 5,000. And again, that was to cover the light towers that the utility department uses for the lights over at Horseman's Park for July 3rd event.
And all across the airport to get people out.
Yes. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Fireworks.
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't mind seeing it bumped up a little more. Williston, at one point, you remember we moved down from Maryland, was a place to come to see fireworks. You could see them very clearly wherever you were at. I went to see Bronson's. Pretty nice show they did. Cedar Key is, reading the article claiming it's the smallest city with the biggest fireworks.
That's a mistruth.
I saw the video. It looked good.
Yeah, Alachua spends I called the lady a couple years ago that does that. They put $50,000 for a half-hour show.
Yeah, we can't do that.
Yeah, we can't do that. But
This is
I'd
about
like
all
to
we
see us
can do.
get back to using, nothing against the gentleman who did it, but I'd like to see us go back to getting a fireworks place. There's North Florida. There's one. I've got the number at work. There's a couple of them. I'm sure that Ms.
Would they be able
Latricia-
to provide the music and the equipment for sound as well? Because the amount that I spend, that's all inclusive in the 18,000.
Might have.
Is there-
Did he? How long was he supposed to play for? I mean, do fireworks?
I did not check the contract,
Okay.
so I am unsure of that answer, but I will find that out for you tomorrow. But I do want to put on a side note that I spoke with Selena, and she said she was able to see some of the fireworks at her house. And I'm not sure of how the distance between her home and Horseman's Park.
They were much higher. And that's what we asked for. We asked for higher and longer.
Yeah,
We
they
think
just
we
didn't
got the
seem like
higher,
they
but not
were
the longer.
that long.
No, we didn't get
Yeah.
the longer.
Is there any way that could be, that additional amount could be made up with some sort of sponsorship?
It is now.
It is already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
They pay for all the bounce houses and the trains, but they pay. But not the fireworks.
Well,
Yeah.
That's it for me. Thank you very much for your cooperation and your approval on the 3 items that I brought to you.
So, Mr. President, one thing before we move on. So, as you know, that every year, or at least every we have a union contract. We negotiate for it. I sit on y'all's behalf. I go through the process of figuring out what they need or what they want. But ultimately, the deciding body is y'all here at the council. So the one thing I would like to know is that, because I see the city CBA presidents here, are there any issues that you want to bring forward as the union representative that you need to make us aware of now? Okay. So I think giving them a voice is important.
And I can tell you, as the chairman of the General Employee Pension Board, that they have asked for some things that have not been approved yet by this council.
Yes, and we've spoke about that.
Yeah,
We've actually
and
had a meeting.
that may need to be considered at our next hearing.
Yeah.
Because we have a pension board meeting Wednesday. Tomorrow.
I'm good.
Item 4, discussion from council. I think we've done that all through the evening, so we're not going to bore you with that. Item 5, is there anybody online? All right, so no public.
I'm sure they gave
public
up on that.
participation.
That would be the only thing. Either do that now or next
Last thing is discussion with possible action, the millage rate by Stephen.
So, so basically, again, kind of summarizing this really quick, your budget right now has 6.75 as the millage rate. At your next meeting, you'll have a resolution to approve that or change it, and then that's what will go into the trim notice. So there's no action right now today, but that's something that you'll have to be prepared to have that discussion and make that motion and have that resolution. It has to be done because that's the last time before August 2nd.
I don't know whether anybody else is interested to see if it goes down. I don't know that it would be as beneficial to the residents to even do a 6.5 rather than a 6.75. Because when we look at it at based on 100,000 valuation of property, and it's 371, I think it was. I can't remember the number exactly. I mean, we got people who have houses that are 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. So we're doubling, tripling, and quadrupling that number. I don't know that $12.50 would be beneficial to them, more beneficial to them than it would be the revenue to us. That's kind of what I need to figure out, I think. But that $337 that we looked at, that's based on a house that's $100,000, worth $100,000. If you've got a house that's worth more than that, it's going up double that, triple that, quadruple that. And since we're getting so much more revenue, I don't know if we should consider going down to 6.5. I'd at least like to look at the numbers when we come back. I don't know if anybody else is interested. And I realize we have to find that in the budget if we do. The amount that we take out, we have to find.
Just keep in mind that you still have a police car to figure out how to fund. We got that negotiated down to 1 and 2, but that's still $70,000. Now we've made some changes and we've got some things to go back and look at. So that'll be what staff, and I'll work with staff to go through and like the streets, the roads, all that good stuff. we're not going to find 70 there. So yes, if you were to reduce it, then yeah, now you have an additional hole to fill.
I know for me, thinking about it, I would at least stay where we're at and then go up where we have to set a higher set it in case we.
Well, keep in mind, you're just setting the max amount. You're not, you still have 2 public hearings to go through and obviously, the better part of 2 months to have more discussions and see if you can find a path to lower it that you're comfortable with.
So, Ms. Deborah, I don't really understand what you just said. So when we come back the next time, not tonight.
No, I want him
when
to
we
do a
come
chart
back
for us.
the next time, can you explain a little bit better for me? So
Yeah, because it's going to impact our
just
residents.
not tonight.
No, we've worn you down now.
May I just propose to the council and ask if it would be okay if I meet with Stephen about the law enforcement impact fee that we talked about?
We actually talked about that a little bit earlier when you stepped out of the room. But yes, we
That
kinda
will
like
that
that
will
idea.
if we implement that, it won't affect the citizens that's currently here, but the new growth that's coming in, and that can help offset some of the costs of vehicles and supplies and different things that we may need. That's my suggestion.
Somebody
to
did
cars.
mention that. I think it was Donald that brought that up, and you just happened to be out of the room when he did.
And also, I think we need to get a committee for that policeman's ball.
Yeah, because I've heard you're quite the
Policeman's
ballroom
ball.
dancer.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to raise you some money. We can have a police
He
at
come out of
Fireball.
what? What'd you say? Ball. BALL. Ball.
And-
to raise money. I'm being serious.
And I don't know if you want to do it tonight or on the 16th to set your next workshop, but we can do it on the 16th.
That's correct.
Please.
I thought we'd already said it.
What
Why?
are we doing?
The workshop?
Yeah, he gave us the list. Is that not set in stone?
That is for the list I gave you is for your public hearings.
Oh, we need another workshop.
If you want another workshop, normally we have one workshop in July, and then we give staff and myself some time to work on your changes, and then we do another one in August.
Oh,
But
it
it's
can't
at
be the middle of August. 'cause
well,
we-
again, it doesn't have to be that. It's just the will of the council, but we normally have 2.
Can we do the 30th of July? Is that too soon?
Yeah, that's too soon.
Yeah, because they have to get us a whole
Not
book
for
out of
me.
here.
No.
It is for me.
I don't know if it's too soon for your advertising.
And let me just say, this is the really long workshop. The rest of them aren't like this. The rest
That's
of them are fairly quick.
Right.
Right,
For the
they
first
go.
one is the longest.
Yeah.
It's gonna go
Will?
quick.
Yeah, but yeah.
The 30th is a planning and zoning committee
Yeah.
meeting,
Planning and zoning's on the 30th.
in case somebody wants to know that.
I mean, we could move them, but
And we gotta have it by the 2nd. August 2nd.
No, this is completely separate. This is just
no.
another opportunity for the council to come together to review whatever changes we've made, and we don't have a whole. We didn't
We could do
really
August
make a ton of
13th.
changes.
Right.
August
okay.
13th?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am, because
No.
we go out of town that Wednesday.
never mind.
Okay.
I think that
July, if possible, July 30th would work.
I mean, does that have to be on a Tuesday?
No, it doesn't. I mean, a lot of people go to church on Wednesday night.
Oh,
prayer
okay.
meeting.
July 30th, there will be quite a few of us that won't be here either.
That's
Yeah,
a
that's
good
gonna
day
be a
for us
good
to
day
have
for
it.
y'all.
What's going on July 30th?
Some of us have conferences that we're required to go to.
So
Is it the rest of that week?
It's the 30th through the 3rd.
What about August?
August what?
Thinking.
That's why the 13th is the only
Well,
thing.
that doesn't mean you can't have it that day.
Yeah, the 13th is the only thing I saw that's really
Okay,
booked.
the 13th will work.
That's the only
13th
thing.
of
August.
It has to be on Tuesday.
That's the only Tuesday available.
But I'm saying, does it have to be on Tuesday?
It doesn't have to be on a Tuesday.
No.
No, but it's kind of what we all have
Yep.
available.
Yeah, that works.
At
I mean, I
6
agree.
o'clock? 13th at 6 o'clock.
I'm good if everybody's good.
Works
Looks
for
like
me.
everybody says 13th,
All right.
6 o'clock. Let's do it.
August the 13th at 6.
Do what now? Oh, that's wonderful. We're gonna have some accurate numbers. All right, budget workshop. 6 o'clock.
All right. I make a motion.
No, you can't make a
I know,
motion.
I was just checking. I will entertain a motion.
I move that we adjourn. Ain't nobody here but the staff.
Yeah, nobody.
Y'all got something to say? You said it already. We already.
All right. So we got a first. We got a second.
And a third. Let's
All right. Any other discussion? None. Move to vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.